Semen retention will close many doors in your life. People that you once got on well with will become antagonists on your journey. Numerous relationships that hinged on power will shift and become strained. Situations that you were previously experiencing will become no longer available to you. At times, it will feel like the world is trying to step on your development and perhaps even stamp out your existence. You are becoming a more powerful energy node, much like an electrical node as a source of power for many others. The previously established nodes of power will feel threatened by your development. This is inevitable. The level of kickback you receive will be in direct proportion to your level of change and development. The only thing you won't be seen as on this journey is invisible. You will not have the pleasure of witnessing the intense effect you are having on the psyches of your friends and foes. But be aware that even without your active effort, your influence is exerting its effect. As the saying goes, when one door closes, another door opens. This is a particular succinct analogy to people practicing semen retention. On the short term, you will perhaps see strong opposition against your spiritual and physical development, but this is to be expected. Your power is increasing, which forces people to do the very thing they most hate to do: reevaluate their previously held beliefs. All of these held beliefs tie into their sense of identity and where their own sense of standing lies. It is a very dangerous game for people with issues of insecurity to have to reevaluate where you and essentially they fall on their own self-imposed hierarchy, their hierarchy of human importance. When you force them to reevaluate your social position, it is like removing a block from a very fragile Jenga tower that they have built up over their lives to deal with the feelings of low confidence and helplessness. This is not a criticism of others with insecurities, but rather a common analogy of how those insecurities are dealt with. Start to see that these short-term perceived negatives are actually positives in the long term of your semen retention journey. How could they be anything else? As your value increases, more people will want to touch your power for their own benefits. You are a well of life, and in a world where everyone's top priority is survival, you represent the antithesis of death, and even just an association with you brings others closer to the source of life. You are the 1 in a million who has broken free from the slavery of sexual desire. It is difficult to articulate into words the intensely profound effect your abundant life essence has on people who come into contact with you, particularly among people who are depleted in this resource. Your accumulated energy is affecting the environment around you. Why do people, especially the elderly, have such feelings of delight and happiness when seeing a baby's face? Because babies are full of life force energy. They are the newly birthed seeds of life that will grow into full-sized human beings. They embody the very essence of life itself, and people who contain less of this essence, such as the elderly, will be all the more sensitive to its forces. We humans have an inherent attraction towards life and an aversion towards death. When we retain, we are accumulating this life force. Today's research journals will tell you the same, that the preservation of reproductive energies significantly extends life. Please consider this point. That job you lost has put you back on the market with vastly more ability and value than you previously held, and thus many more doors that were not previously accessible to you have suddenly become open. That relationship that is falling apart was only entered into on the basis of how your power sat in relation to theirs, whether that be slightly below, above, or on equal footing. Your massive energy increase and development of your organism can easily upset the delicate social dynamic of friendship and business relationships. When an entity decides to depart from us on this journey, this is not a losing out of connections at all. but rather it is life rearranging our circumstances and paving the way for our new being. With that in mind, accept the changes taking place and sincerely wave goodbye to your old world as it fades away. Like attracts like. This happens on the playgrounds at school, and it happens in adult life. This is always going on around you, but at much subtler levels. Retention amplifies this process immensely. The universe, or perhaps this system we are inside of, is shedding our old connections and making way for new connections that will match the energy you are now generating. This process is encoded into the laws of nature, into the algorithm. If a zebra one day wakes up with yellow fur and starts developing big teeth and a lion's mane, for how long will his zebra friends and family maintain relations with him? Where will he fit into his current social group? He will be abandoned, of course. How can the other zebras feel anything but threatened for their life by this powerful and threatening transformation? As ludicrous as this scenario sounds, the social mechanisms at play here are identical. People act out of survival and self-preservation. Accept that your transformation is creating a new identity and a new reality for you that is under construction, and that the building of new structures requires the destruction of old ones. Many people will have no place in your life as you evolve your being. This is a natural process, so embrace it, and be thankful that it will happen for you without your conscious effort. If you pay less attention to the short term and more attention to the long term, you'll notice these patterns and be able to see them from a wider perspective. You may even reach the conclusion that every single perceived setback planted the seeds for much fortune that now exists in your current state of being. You're changing. You're becoming an entity of powerful force. It is not only about your internal transformation, but the external transformation of your reality that is occurring due to this change. You are being redirected to a higher plane of existence. Carry no doubt that these changes you're undergoing are for the ultimate betterment of your future and the world. I'm not a doctor nor a scientist. I'm recounting ancient works and modern research and forming my own perspectives. There is a vital source of energy permeating your very being. It powers the processes and functions of your organism. An electrical energy charge that courses through your veins, through every cell of your body, breathing life into you. A battery. It powers the nervous system to send electrical signals through the body and to the brain, allowing us to think and carry out physical movement and function. The strength of electrical charge is very much connected to your vitality and life force. Sexuality, if it be denied the reproductive expression and provided that it also be kept from artificial excitation, seems to develop a sort of dynamic force or energy which the nutritive, the motor, and the relational departments can use to their individual and collective advantage. On the other hand, those who unnaturally or excessively expend along sexual lines what may seem to them to be exclusively sexual energy, available only for sexual expression, thereby deprive the system at large of what might have been general stimulation and vitality. Indeed, the sexual department of a continent adult seems to be a sort of storage battery of vitality, a veritable reservoir for surplus energy. This energy, which seems so like a tremendous dynamic force, may be expended just as each individual shall elect. It may be wasted in lustful and abnormal sensuality, or it may be used partly for the legitimate purposes of reproduction and the remainder in lustful practices, or it may be expended in exalting and intensifying the nutritive, the muscular, and the mental life. This remarkable fact is of great practical importance. The retainer of sexual energy frees up available resources for all the other competing processes and functions occurring within the body. The more available bioenergy there is to utilize, the better the bodily systems can carry out those functions and processes, resulting in less oxidative stress and higher maintenance of cell integrity. In the great battery of human life, man usually is the primary or positive pole, woman the negative or receptive. The one gives, the other receives. The connection of the one with the other opens a circuit through which the electric forces of the universe flow into both. But in order to construct a perfect battery, the natures of the husband and wife should be attuned to harmony, should be unweakened by abuses. In a word, each should be keyed to harmonious vibrations with the other. Where the conditions are such as these, a store of life energy is gathered in the body, which throws out all worn-out atoms, sends new life into those that are exhausted, revivifies the brain cells and thus provides a more efficient instrument for mental work, and generates a store of personal magnetism which inevitably draws to the individual the esteem of the people he deals with, as well as every good thing in the universe. This is the regenerative effect of the sex function, rightly, intelligently, and purely exercised. The elements in our bodies, like sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium, have a specific electrical charge. Almost all of our cells can use these charged elements, called ions, to generate electricity. These elements, along with more relating to bioelectric energy conduction, are also found in the semen and prostate. One element of particular importance that is found in abundance in the semen and prostate is zinc. According to studies in the 1950s, the content level of zinc found in the human prostate gland was more than that contained in the liver, muscle, brain, testes, or blood. By no stretch of the imagination could we consider these zinc levels to be insignificant. Another vital constituent is phosphorus. In the ejaculation of the normal man, about 226 million spermatozoa are given off. These are rich in phosphorized fats, lecithin, cholesterol, the parent source of sex hormones, nuclear proteins, and iron. Dr. Evans, an English physiologist, has presented the interesting idea that thinking is merely a phase of phosphorus metabolism in the brain, which recalls the saying of German biochemists, "Without phosphorus, no thought." Evans states that during thinking and mental exertion, phosphates are increased in the excreta, and he therefore concludes that thinking involves an oxidization of phosphorus compounds in the brain, under the catalytic influence of the iodine of the thyroid hormone. Evans says, if we take a fresh brain, either human or animal, and immerse it in either absolute alcohol, sulfuric ether, or olive oil, we obtain a luminous solution of phosphorus. This may be the origin of the phosphorescent brain glow, observed by Dr. G.W. Cryle, as given off by the living brain in a dark room. In this oxidization of phosphorus in the brain, Evans sees the origin of the generation of electric nerve currents, for the oxidization of phosphorus in the atmosphere causes an electric discharge to be given off. Cryle has shown that the electrical energy of the nervous system is generated in the brain, which represents a central storage battery of the body. It is thus clear that phosphorus, oxygen, and sufficient thyroid hormone, iodine, are all necessary for the normal generation of brain electricity, and that in the absence of either of these three elements, there will be deficient brain action. For it is well known that the brain is richer in phosphorus than any other part of the body, and also uses up oxygen 3 times as rapidly as other tissues. Also, without the catalytic influence of the thyroid hormone, it cannot function normally, or without iodine, on which element the thyroid depends for the manufacture of its secretion. The body is powered by electricity. An electric field is endogenous when the electricity generated is not coming from an external source, but is being generated internally from the firing of the cells. This electrical activity influences the behavior of the surrounding network of cells. Essentially, every organ and cell in our bodies uses electric voltage differences and ionic currents in the performance of critical daily functions. Every cell generates a voltage of roughly 70 MV across its outer membrane that is used for a variety of signaling and transport functions. For example, our retinal rod cells drive a relatively steady dark current into the outer segment and out of the inner segment. Even our cellular energy levels depend on voltage. All of our cells make their universal energy currency, ATP, in large part by generating a 200 MV potential difference across the mitochondrial inner membrane. This theme continues in multicellular organs. Many organ functions are coordinated with electrical signals, such as the wave of depolarization that sweeps over the heart to trigger a synchronous contraction to pump blood efficiently. Abnormalities in this electrical signal can lead to fibrillation and heart attacks. The voltages generated by the contracting heart are so large that they can be easily detected at the surface of the body, and this signal, called the electrocardiogram or EKG, is routinely used to diagnose heart disease. With this abundant use of electrical signals in cellular and organ function, it should not be a surprise that endogenous electric fields are also important for normal development, regeneration, and wound healing. This electrical force that permeates the body has been written about in various contexts, from modern to ancient texts spanning back thousands of years. Many have even made claim to humanity's ancient structures as having been built precisely for the purpose of harnessing electromagnetic energy. A bird's-eye view of these structures is comparable to wires and capacitors on a circuit board. It appears that many of the regenerative processes and functions that occur within the cell structures of the body are powered by these endogenous fields of electricity circulating within our organism. We are the walking storehouses of electrical energy with regenerative abilities to keep us alive and in this realm of existence. We may, as a human race, be all-powering something much bigger than us, something that lies beyond the limits of our own perception. It has been established that in stallions the available bioelectricity in the body, known as ATP, is required for the maintenance of membrane integrity in the spermatozoa. In simpler terms, bioelectric energy is required to keep and maintain the survival and integrity of the sperm. It is very reasonable to assume that similar such mechanisms would also apply to the human spermatozoa, that we would require electrical resources to create, power, and maintain the sperm. Assuming this to be true, then it would seem likely that the continual expulsion and necessary replacement of new stock may come at a biological price. The insufficient availability of this energy, aka ATP, has been known to cause oxidative stress via mitochondrial dysfunction. It seems, at least from my own perspective, that the constant loss of seminal fluids will require constant replenishment of said fluids and may not be conducive to optimal mitochondrial health. Furthermore, such a process could thus induce oxidative stress and accelerate the aging process prematurely. That the expenditure of life force comes at a cost to the organism should be of no surprise. It is an immutable law of nature and a widely recognized concept in biology. Since energy devoted to reproduction is not available for growth and maintenance, reproduction itself has a cost in terms of increased mortality or decreased growth of the adult organism. Thus, an individual that reproduces in a given year often has reduced survivorship and/or may reproduce at a lower rate in the near future. Therefore, an organism may have greater evolutionary fitness over the long term if it postpones reproduction or limits the allocation of energy to current reproduction. The gift of life has afforded every being a finite source of energy that can be used in any way they see fit. We can spend much of this energy on the activity of reproduction, or we can invest this energy back into ourselves for the purposes of regeneration. The more bioenergy available, the more efficiently our cells can function, and the less fatigue and oxidative stress we will experience in the long run. From nature's perspective, it seems the purpose of our existence is for procreation. Yet from an individual's perspective, perhaps this isn't always the case. For many, health and longevity may be of higher priority than procreation. There are no rules here. One must decide for themselves what values they seek to live by and how they wish to live. As we become attuned to our own source of energy, we become capable of allocating that energy to the areas of our life that are important. This is why semen retention, for many, is so important. It allows us to redirect these sexual energies and make them available to other parts of our body and life that require this energy for optimal function. It allows for more maintenance, more regeneration, and ultimately, more life. A lot of our thoughts revolve around our social relationships with other people. We spend a lot of time unconsciously processing the data of our social interactions, forming mental webs of information of the people we interact with, and gauging how those interactions affect ourselves and our positions in the social sphere. For some people, the negative words of others can leave us feeling down and dejected for days on end. Words tend to reveal deeper feelings and intentions that the speaker may have about us, and we spend a lot of time deciphering these words to reveal those intentions. The mind is constantly trying to establish where it is we stand in relation to everyone else. The mind exerts much energy analyzing the daily words and actions of others, allowing us to make decisions as to who we should perceive of as allies, enemies, and all gradients in between. This pattern of thought behavior has evolved as a survival mechanism from tribal times when our survival depended heavily on our alliances with other people and tribes. Resources were commonly shared among alliances, and thus networking was an integral part of survival. The paradox here is that for many, the far lengths our mind goes to protect us from such threats will also carry its own burden on the body. Being in a constant state of overanalysis and worry will oftentimes put us into fight or flight mode, will tax our body's energy reserves and nervous system, leaving us more stressed, nervous, and ultimately burnt out. Sometimes negativity may be directed at you via an overt verbal attack, via passive aggressiveness, or simply by the withdrawal of attention to elicit a negative response from you. It is perhaps best to think of social interactions as energy exchanges. Every time you interact with someone, you are exchanging energies with each other, the outcome resulting in a more positive, negative, or neutral state. You will find that interacting with some people will amplify your energy, whilst interacting with others will deplete your energy and leave you feeling drained. Why does this occur? Different chemicals, when mixed together, elicit different reactions. When you mix cola and water, there is no observable reaction, whereas when you mix cola and Mentos candy, the reaction is explosive. Your human body emits its own unique frequency of energy that is constantly expressing itself. We can become especially aware of our own energetic frequency when interacting with others, as it serves as a reference point to ourself. When humans interact, their energies are also interacting and reacting to each other. Much like the playing of two musical notes simultaneously that will result in either a harmonic pairing or in a clash of dissonance. As do musical notes, human energies too will resonate with certain energies and clash with others. If our energies are vibrating at a frequency similar or on the same scale as another, they harmonize and are felt by both entities positively as they form a synergistic bond. This is the feeling you get when you have a great interaction with someone who you feel is on the same wavelength as you. You can feel your energies harmonizing with each other and feeding you positive energy. When you think of your interactions in this way, you may be able to have more understanding that the inability for you to get along with someone is perhaps not your or their fault so much as it is a dissonance of your energies. There is nothing personal here. It is not water's fault that it cannot mix with oil, just as much as it is not oil's fault that it cannot mix with water. The entities are not structured to merge. There is no reason for you to take any such negative social interaction to heart. Many people have reported that on their semen retention streaks, they experience uncontrollable emotions and stronger irritability in social situations. Situations that were not so stressful in the past become harder to deal with whilst retaining. The behavior of others that previously didn't annoy us may suddenly become very off-putting, and our reaction can be surprisingly strong. At times we may even experience outbursts of anger. Now that you have stopped the constant draw on your energetic resources via semen loss, your brain has a lot more energy at its disposal, and many areas of brain activity may become hyperactive. Emotions become stronger, our gut reactions can become almost palpable, and impulses to assert ourselves more aggressively may manifest themselves. The increase in testosterone that anecdotal reports of long-term retention indicate may also play a role in the increased aggressiveness. It will take some getting used to this new state we are in and dealing with this excess energy. On a physical level, those practicing retention would do well to work their bodies physically to fatigue every day. To engage the body in much work and physical activity as well as mental activity so that by the end of the day we feel a strong desire to rest. To deal with these physiological changes during retention, it would be of much benefit to remember the following. We have no control over the output of others, yet we have total control of how we interpret their energy. An insult is not an insult until we decide it to be. To not allow the words of others to affect our emotions is one of the most important rules we can learn to improve our happiness and ultimately our health. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. If any man despises me, that is his problem. My only concern is not doing or saying anything deserving of contempt." Commencing semen retention involves restricting your body from experiencing orgasm. An orgasm is much like any other drug as it causes significant amounts of dopamine to be released into the system, creating a temporary relief and numbness from stress. You have become used to this instant reward. This is perhaps why people especially tend to relapse when they're under stress or experiencing loneliness. Much like a drug, it can take the edge off life. People get addicted to this feeling easily, and giving up this luxury can sometimes be a lot harder than one first envisages. There is an adjustment phase where you will have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. For many, this is where relapses begin. For the one with a strong resolve to quit, this will be merely a test of their own resolve. We get to decide whether to be offended by others' actions. As Epictetus said, "It is not he who reviles or strikes you who insults you, but your opinion that these things are insulting." To not allow other people's words to have an emotional impact on us is a skill that can be soundly developed. It is a central principle of Stoic philosophy and will help you deal with people and life in general, especially whilst on your retention journey. You may have learnt this on the playground as a child through the saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me." Many times, though, it is not an outright attack that we must face, but a passive attack, such as ignoring and social exclusion. These methods are more commonly applied in today's world because an outright attack would bring unwanted attention on the attacker, whereas a passive attack allows for plausible deniability. For many reading this, their automatic response to insult is offense and feelings of personal attack. Perhaps even worthlessness and feelings of not being a valid human being or member of the social group. The way to deal with such an attack is to not take it as an insult. It is only an insult because you perceived it to be that way. You could have perceived the words in any way you wanted, and you decided to perceive them in a highly personalized way, perhaps even connecting many of your self-perceived shortcomings to the negative words of your companion. You can change how you perceive an insult, and its effects will dramatically improve your mental well-being. It is in our power to have no opinion about a thing, and not be disturbed in our soul. For things themselves have no natural power to form our judgments. There are many people on this earth who don't feel the slightest bother by another's words. They are nothing more than whispers in the wind. They realize that people they are interacting with live in totally different realities to them, and their perspective holds no bearing on their own existence. Remember, you and your fellow man do not inhabit the same brain. You do not inhabit the same universe, just similar versions. You are playing two very different versions of a game or watching the same movie but from a different character's perspective. Sometimes we get to see the antagonist's perspective in later movie sequels and realize they weren't so bad all along. Perspective is everything. Even the way we perceive colors may vary from human to human. How are you so sure that the light blue you are looking at is not a darker shade or different color in the eyes of your companion? It is difficult to confirm that the blue I'm looking at is the exact same version of blue that you're looking at. This is an important point to keep in mind when experiencing conflict and a difference of opinion with others. We need to understand that they don't see things the way we see things because they are in a different version of this world than us. They are playing a different game. This knowledge should free you. No one's opinion has anything to do with you. It is just their reaction to a version of you in their story, and that is not the real you at all. That version they are hating on is not you. It is a character that exists in a different universe from where you exist. It is but a shadow of a shadow. There is nothing to be taken to heart about this, as it has nothing to do with you. The person you interact with lives in a universe where they are the hero and are trying to live happily ever after. And anything that appears to hinder this objective gets violently rejected. Try to develop a sense of sympathy for this perceived enemy. Next time you're insulted by them, keep in mind, every man has his secret sorrows which the world knows not. And oftentimes we call a man cold when he is only sad. Hurt people. That's how pain patterns get passed on, generation after generation after generation. Break the chain today. Meet anger with sympathy, contempt with compassion, and cruelty with kindness. Greet grimaces with smiles. Forgive and forget about finding fault. Love is the weapon of the future. When you experience someone being undeservedly antagonistic towards you, realize that they are merely fighting with themselves. Those words hold no bearing on you and your existence. When you experience someone willfully ignoring your existence, remember the reflection they see of you is reflecting something in themselves. Developing a sense of compassion is perhaps more useful than anything else. People don't set out to be evil. They think they are doing the right thing, yet many are still operating from lower levels of consciousness, lower emotional states with lower frequencies. Be thankful you have elevated to be able to see this, and don't allow them to pull you down to their level of thought. Develop compassion. People practicing semen retention are cultivating health. Whether it is your intention or not, the practice of retention is putting you on a path of increased longevity. As a byproduct, your rate of age is slowing, and you will stay looking and feeling younger for longer. Are you practicing semen retention for the purpose of health, beauty, and longevity? If you are, then semen retention is not the end of the road. If you would like to excel in these areas, then it is necessary to apply yourself to all practices that cultivate health and beauty. To live life in accordance with nature is health. The qualities of nature are all conducive to good health. Nature is fresh air, sunlight, fresh water, natural sights, sounds, and movement. These elements combined help our mind and body to reach a healthy state of equilibrium. As we know, semen retention is one of the tenets of good health, but it doesn't stop there. I can affirm without the slightest hesitation from my own experience as well as that of others that sexual enjoyment is not only not necessary for, but is positively injurious to health. All the strength of body and mind that has taken long to acquire is lost all at once by a single dissipation of the vital energy. It takes a long time to regain this lost vitality, and even then there is no saying that it can be thoroughly recovered. The preservation of our vitality is impossible without pure air, pure water, pure and wholesome food, as well as pure thought. Mahatma Gandhi. Many of us in today's world are severely disconnected from nature. We live in large boxes made from synthetic and often toxic materials that block out the sun's natural rays, shut off the earth's natural flow of oxygen, and discourage bodily movement by way of chairs, sofas, and beds. Spending ample time inside can significantly reduce our oxygen intake, reduce vitamin D and melatonin synthesis, increase toxin intake, and bring our circadian rhythm into disorder. These are all states that hasten the degeneration of our organism. Sunbathing antedates recorded human history. Savages, primitive peoples, little boys, and animals instinctively seek to avail themselves of the benefits of sunshine. There has never been a time when mankind has not enjoyed its influence, and only a false ascetic pattern of life and the monastic ideals ever, even for a time, deprived part of the race of at least occasional use of the sun. Life is a sun child, says Dr. Oswald. Nearly all species of plants and animals attain the highest form of their development in the neighborhood of the equator. Palm trees are tropical grasses. The python boa is a fully developed black snake, the tiger an undiminished wild cat. With every degree of a higher latitude, nature issues the representatives of her archetypes in reduced editions, reduced in beauty and longevity, as well as in size and strength. Without the sun, the body cannot function properly, let alone at its optimal state, and over time this will lead to organism degradation. The sun helps to carry out many biological functions of maintenance and synthesis within the body that are necessary for optimal health and vitality. The regulation of mitochondrial function, cardiovascular improvement, bone health, the production of melatonin and synthesis of vitamin D in the skin. There are numerous known and many lesser known benefits of sunlight that make it an essential tenet of good health. It is, of course, advised not to overexpose yourself to avoid the many consequences of sunburn, but moderate sun exposure has shown to be of essential benefit to the body. During the 1900s in the UK, vitamin D deficiency was causing rampant illness, particularly among the young. When you put the vitamin D story into the perspective of human history, it begins with the Industrial Revolution. As the revolution began to sweep across northern Europe in the mid-17th century, doctors reported seeing a new disease that afflicted young children with a constellation of physical signs and symptoms, notably deformities of the skeleton such as bowed legs, misshapen pelvis, enlarged head, prominent knobby projections along the ribs, curvature of the spine, poor teeth, and weak and flabby legs. The disease had devastating consequences. It not only retarded growth and carried serious risk of upper respiratory tract infections, including tuberculosis and influenza, but it also had far-reaching effects into adulthood and impaired these children's ability to function throughout their lives. What was happening was that as people began to congregate in Great Britain and Northern Europe, they erected cities whose tightly placed buildings closed off sunlight, the alleys where kids were hanging out and living. Compounding the problem was the gathering pollution from coal burning, which thickened the air and blocked the sun's rays. When these kids started to show signs of bone deformities, doctors began to take note. It is my belief that the benefits of sun exposure vastly outweigh the negatives, though I recommend you research this topic thoroughly and form your own conclusions. Being outdoors gives direct exposure to the outside air, which even in most cities is infinitely fresher and more physically restorative than breathing in the indoor air of a confined living space. It is not only the breathing in of fresh air, but the fresh air contact with your bare skin that is of great benefit. Written in the early 1900s. Nearly everyone is agreed today that sickness and short life are the consequences of unnatural and unhealthy modes of living. All are confirmed in the belief that fresh air is an all-powerful source of health, and that bad air, on the other hand, is exceedingly harmful, even dangerous. These things are common knowledge. But how uncommon it is to find practice in accordance with the knowledge. The vast majority of people live in bad air. Good air, be it cold or warm, is the foundation of all conditions of life. Bad air, cold or warm, is everywhere, the most powerful and common cause of sickness and short life. Be in the fresh air as much as you can. To make a point of exposing the naked body to the fresh air and sunlight in your bedroom if you cannot do it in the open. To rub the skin and wash it so that it can perform its natural functions, the vital importance of which are generally overlooked. with freedom and ease, and to exercise all the muscles of the body so that you have a sound frame, strong in every part. The benefits of regularly exposing our lungs and body to fresh air are profound and numerous. Numerous studies have drawn the connection between low levels of oxygen and the proliferation of cancer cells. Some studies go as far as to label hypoxia, that is, lack of oxygen, as the prime cause of most cancers. The practice of exposing the bare body to outside fresh air were known historically as air baths. In 1934, Shelton wrote, "Benjamin Franklin was in the habit of taking air baths each morning in his room. He made some efforts to induce others to adopt the practice and speaks highly of the benefits he derived therefrom. Franklin particularly desired to divest himself of all clothing when doing mental work. Air playing over the body may increase metabolism 50% in 10 minutes. Thyroid extract, medicine's only claimed stimulant of metabolism, is said to require a year to accomplish this same thing. An air bath of 20 minutes duration reduces the hydrogen-ion content of the blood to normal. No drug method known can do this in any length of time." Dr. Trell considered the air bath as admirable in cases of scrofula, rickets, and other conditions. Rickley declared, "Man is made to live in the open air. Therefore, when exposed to the action of light, air, and sun, he is in his real element." As soon as people realize that sun and air baths are more important than water baths, all of our cities will have public sun parks where the people may go and take their sun and air baths. Submerging the body in water, the traditional bath, has long been known for its many health benefits. In Japan, bathing is practiced daily and has been a part of the culture for thousands of years. They also have one of the highest life expectancies in the world. Studies have indicated various health benefits for people practicing bathing regularly. It is said baths exert hypothermic action that induces vasodilatation and increases the flow of blood and thus oxygen and nutrients to the body. Some of the established benefits of this practice regularly are cardiovascular improvement, breathing and lung function improvement, stress reduction, hormone regulation, brain and nervous system improvement, blood and overall immunity enhancement. It may not be possible for all people, but if at all possible, the addition of water baths will be of great benefit to your overall health and appearance. If you hear a voice within you say, "You cannot paint," then by all means, paint, and that voice will be silenced. Through saving money every day, you accumulate fortune. Through learning every day, you accumulate wisdom. Through saving your sexual energies every day, you accumulate life. What does it mean to be confident? Why is confidence a trait more often associated with popularity, leadership, and attractive people? Why is confidence less often found among people of lower social status and weaker body constitution? We are taught not to judge a book by its cover, yet our biology betrays us, as this is exactly how our minds have evolved to evaluate situations and people. This is a hardwired instinct. Is it possible to become confident and attractive without the aid of our predestined genetics, upbringing, and mental disposition? In the retention community, people often report that while on long-term retention, they experience powerful levels of confidence, attractiveness, and receptiveness from others. People experience greater ease in social interactions, stating that they find the right words to say at the right time, and an increased ability to articulate their deepest thoughts with high precision. Others practicing retention claim to feel greater levels of motivation and self-assertiveness, which can inspire in themselves the behavior to stand up to and walk away from situations such as jobs or relationships that are no longer benefiting them. How is it that the practice of semen retention causes such transformative changes within so many people? Various literature has attributed semen retention to increased levels of neural activity, nerve and brain functioning. Many practicing retention are keenly aware of the physiological changes taking place within them. People experience a long list of changes, both mentally, physically, and spiritually, and even within the first 30 days. Many become very aware that they are physically improving, that they are changing, and thus develop a conscious awareness of their inner transformation that is taking place. Such an awareness of our own thoughts and thinking processes is known in the psychology sphere as metacognition, and developing this ability is said to aid in our mental development and learning processes. This concept, without the label, had been recognized and expressed succinctly over 100 years before. Written in the early 1900s. No one can impart power to you, because no one can create power, for all power comes from within. It does not take any more effort to be magnetic than not to be. To unfold latent power is very simple. When once you realize that you have power, you have confidence in your efforts, and this power irradiates your whole being. If the irradiation is weak, your power will be weak. But if the irradiation is strong, your power will be proportionately strong, and you may become invincible. We never know what we can do until we have something to spur us on to achievement. It is this very awareness of our physical and mental improvements that give us a newfound sense of confidence and invincibility in ourselves. The physical structure of our own being plays an intrinsic role in how we view ourselves and the world around us. On long-term retention, we experience a deep physiological transformation of our own organism. This not only encompasses the functional aspects of our body, but also a marked increase in aesthetics, attractiveness, and thus receptiveness from other people in social interactions. We are becoming a stronger concentration of pure energy, and as time passes, this concentration only increases. A developed, sound confidence is an inevitable result of these improvements taking place from within the body, an increase in overall energy, vitality, and health. An increase in electrical output power from the heart. From the Hindu perspective comes an increase in ojas. From the Taoists, an increase in Jing essence. Ultimately, we are increasing the very essence of life itself from within us. Swami Sivananda said, "Semen retention nourishes the people around us too, because when they experience us, they are experiencing the universal life force." How can we not exude more life force when this energy is being abundantly accumulated from within? This expression manifests itself outwardly as magnetism, charm, attractiveness, and confidence. Confidence from retention arises from an instinctual awareness of our physical and mental enhancement. We no longer feel the same heightened apprehension to perceived threats, because we ourselves have become more formidable bodies of energy. Our biological integrity is strengthening, and we are becoming aware of it. Not only can we feel it within ourselves, but others around us can feel it too, and on many occasions will make it known to us. Many practicing retention will begin to receive comments, compliments, and see unheard of opportunities arising in their life. It is like a door to a new world opens up that we never previously knew existed. The transformation that occurs during this process is nothing short of alchemic. This is the practice of esoteric alchemy, the practice of transforming a substance of lesser value into greater value. Over time, day by day, the saving of our vital forces accumulates and goes to work to form nature's ideal form. All aspects of our development become geared towards the ideal form of human specimen that nature had intended. The closer we are to this ideal, the more harmonious our existence becomes. Since the orgasm has this negative effect on males, its avoidance has the opposite effect. By storing up sexual energy, a man becomes stronger, healthier, and more vital. He becomes more ambitious too, and creative in doing good. He becomes more patient and successful with people, and he develops stamina and endurance to see his works through to conclusions. So the sexually restrained male becomes more successful in general. Beyond that, he even develops occult power to influence things by sheer thought and will. In fact, to a full renunciant, God gives all power and all worldly authority. This is a natural law. People who receive much acknowledgement for their charm and attractiveness become more confident in themselves. People who are recognized for their skills and contributions to a certain field become confident in these abilities. People with a monopoly on money or social status are confident. Of course, there are many exceptions, but in a general sense, this is how confidence unfolds naturally throughout the physical world. It could be said that all of these manifestations are indicative of the same thing: energy. Attractiveness and robust physicality as a result of energy, whether that from the gift of genetic inheritance or from healthy lifestyle habits. Attractiveness is a result of uninterrupted natural growth. This template of growth plays out across all forms in nature and is commonly referred to as the golden ratio of beauty. People who are genetically blessed with attractive faces and physiques, or even highly knowledgeable individuals within their fields, tend to inevitably develop an inner awareness of their own powers through the feedback of humanity. People will let them know either directly or indirectly of their positively perceived traits and power. Confidence develops from an understanding of this power that they themselves contain, a feeling of value created by an awareness of their own power in relation to others, which can give them an overall sense of their place and influence in the world. No one will think more of you than you think of yourself. What you are is pictured in your appearance. If you think you are just ordinary, you will appear just ordinary. The way you impress yourself is the way you will impress others. You can cultivate any qualities you desire, and when you possess them, you will express them in your face and manner. You have to feel grand to look your best. Confidence is the very basis of all achievement. There is tremendous power in the conviction that we can do a thing. Without confidence, there could be no miracles performed. The Bible says, "It was through the faith that Abraham, Moses, and all the great characters were able to perform miracles and do such marvelous things." All through the Bible, the importance of faith is emphasized. "According to thy faith, be it unto thee." Faith doubles our powers and multiplies our ability. Without it, we can do little. By faith, we can come in contact with the infinite power and learn the truth from the foundation source. It has always been the secret of great miracle workers. Anything that shall increase your confidence in yourself will increase your magnetism. Why does semen retention cause such a diverse cascade of benefits when practiced long-term? Our entire filter that we experience life through is colored by the abundance and quality of our life essence. When we preserve our essence over time and witness it building up, we sense ourselves becoming a much more powerful energetic source in this world, a force to be reckoned with, an energy that can work for longer, fight harder, influence further, and outperform all other competitors. With this knowledge at hand and practiced consistently over time, we transform into a self-driven, motivated, and energetic entity, capable of achieving anything in this world that we desire. As we become able to draw deeper on the universal source of energy, we realize that anything we so desire is within reach. I'm not a doctor. I'm merely recounting the findings of researchers and authors and sharing their conclusions whilst conveying my own perspectives. Before we start on the individual benefits that are to be gained from retaining the semen, let us first focus on the overall main benefits of semen retention. Benefit number 1. Overall nourishment and regeneration of the organism, creating conditions for a healthier and longer life. If we consider biology's summer theory principle, that reproductive activity accelerates the aging process, and consider the physiological value of the constituents found within the semen, it appears, at least from my own perspective, more than reasonable to assume the value of retaining semen within the body, rather than the expulsion of it. What are the elements that make up the semen? One of the most extensive texts I have seen on the makeup and ingredients of semen was written in 1956 by Semen. Number 1. Choline. Research into choline and its interactions with brain functioning have concluded it to be a necessary component to human health. In a 2013 study, it was concluded, choline is a dietary component essential for normal function of all cells. In 1988, the National Academy of Sciences, USA, issued a report identifying choline as a required nutrient for humans and recommended daily intake amounts. In ongoing studies, we are finding that men have a higher requirement than do postmenopausal women. The availability of choline for normal development of brain is critical. We suggest that choline-rich foods are an important component of the diet, and that especially during pregnancy it would be prudent to include them as part of a healthy diet. Mammalian seminal plasma represents one of the richest natural sources of free choline and water-soluble choline compounds. Chemical analysis has revealed that the semen is very rich in choline, and furthermore that choline is found to be present through the body within the cells. Choline is found all throughout the body's organs too, in lower amounts than the amount found present in ejaculated semen. Compared with other animal tissues and body fluids, semen ranks as one of the richest sources of choline. It owes its high choline content to the seminal plasma and not to spermatozoa as such. In rat, Fletcher, Best and Solant found the following distribution of total choline milligrams per 100 grams. Seminal fluid, 514. Brain, 325, liver, 260, pancreas, 232, stomach, 152, uterus, 74, fat, 23, blood, 22. The composition is similar in other species, including man, where values exceeding 2,000 milligrams per 100 milliliters of semen have been observed. The general importance of choline in the lipid metabolism of animals was first brought to light in 1932 when Best and his co-workers demonstrated that the appearance of the fatty livers in rats fed a choline-deficient, high-fat diet could be prevented by dietary supplements of choline. In 1939, Divigno and his co-workers discovered that choline is an important dietary source of methyl groups for the living animal, and this led to the recognition of choline as a participant in transmethylation processes. These three fundamental functions probably represent the clue to the understanding of the manifold symptoms associated with choline deficiency. Among the various manifestations of choline deficiency, those concerned with reproduction are particularly striking. Choline is known, for example, to be essential for egg production in the chicken, as well as for normal lactation and nutrition in rats. There is also evidence in humans that choline deficiency leads to problems in the liver. Healthy humans fed diets deficient in choline and humans fed parentally have decreased plasma choline concentrations and develop liver dysfunction that is similar to that seen in choline deficient animals. In experimental animals, fatty liver occurs in choline deficiency because phosphatidylcholine synthesis is required for very low density lipoprotein secretion. This accumulation of lipids in the liver may explain why choline-deficient rats spontaneously develop hepatocarcinoma. Although there is room for further study on this component, the benefits of choline and its key role in various bodily functions and organ maintenance have been well established, and to be constantly expelling this through ejaculation seems counterintuitive to good health. Number 2. Lecithin. Another substance found in semen is lecithin. Lecithin describes a group of fatty substances found in plant and animal tissues. Lecithin is essential for proper biological function. It is said that lecithin is a substance necessary for nutrition of the nerves in the brain. The semen is a viscid albuminous fluid, alkaline in reaction, which is very rich in calcium and phosphorus, also in lecithin, cholesterol, albumin, nucleoproteins, iron, vitamin E, etc. In the ejaculation of the normal man, about 226 million spermatozoa are given off. These are rich in phosphorized fats, lecithin, cholesterol, the parent source of sex hormones, nucleoproteins, and iron. An ounce of semen is considered to be equal in value to 60 ounces of blood, of which it constitutes an extract of some of its most valuable of constituents. As far as its vitalizing power is concerned, Dr. Friedrich McCann remarks on this point. From what has been stated, it must be admitted that the spermatic fluid does possess potentialities justifying the belief of ancient writers concerning its vital properties. The presence of lecithin and other substances found in the semen is said to be remarkably similar to the nervous tissues. Some years ago, the author received the following interesting letter from a reader of this writings. July 29, 1936. Dear Dr. Sigmeister, I was wondering if the draining at any time of the lecithin and phosphorus and other valuable substances during any sexual act hindered achievements of the higher intellectuality, and if the brain and body were debilitated. Please answer this very important question. I am having great difficulty to understand how a person as myself can store up vast amounts of sex forces without expending it. To make a long story short, I do not understand the very function of the sexual apparatus. Please send me any literature that you have on hand concerning this matter, and I will greatly appreciate it. Also refer me to some excellent books which will cover this subject in full. I beg of you, do not neglect answering any questions asked in this letter. Thank you. To this letter, he made the following reply. Dear Mr. L., you ask whether the draining from the body of lecithin and phosphorus through the sexual act will hinder the highest intellectual achievement and debilitate body and brain. Most definitely this is the case. Read my article on Do Neuroses and Psychoses Have a Chemical Origin in the June 1936 issue of The Modern Psychologist, in which I show that the loss of these nerve and brain foods through sexual indulgence in any form deprives the nerves and brain of needed nourishment and leads to nervous and mental disorders. According to this point of view, neurasthenia may be considered as representing a condition of phosphorus deficiency, or rather lecithin deficiency, for lecithin is the form in which phosphorus is present in the myelin sheaths of the nerves, the nerve oil whose burning keeps the fires of nerve vitality burning. Since lecithin is a prominent constituent of the semen, we can understand why excessive loss of semen can cause nerve starvation and all the symptoms of neurasthenia. When the lack of lecithin and organic phosphorus is more serious, the brain itself suffers lecithin deficiency and becomes disturbed in its functioning, just as any other starved organ is when deprived of the elements it requires for its normal nutrition and functioning. Number 3. Spermine and spermidine. Spermidine is a polyamine, meaning it has two or more primary amino groups. It is naturally occurring and is widely encountered in ribosomes and living tissues. It plays a critical role in cell function and survival. Spermidine occurs naturally in all cells throughout the body and regulates vital cellular functions such as protein synthesis as well as cell proliferation and differentiation. When human semen had stood a little while, some three-sided bodies were seen in it, terminating at either end in a point. Some were of the length of the smallest grain of sand, and some were a little bigger, as in Fig A. They were further as bright and clear as if they had been crystals. Thus, in a letter of November 1677 addressed to the Royal Society, Anthony van Leeuwenhoek reported the discovery of the crystalline substances in semen which later became known as spermine. Dudley, Rosenheim and Starling also succeeded in the isolation of spermidine. So far as spermine in human semen is concerned, there can be little doubt that its high concentration, which is of the order of 50 to 250 milligrams per 100 milliliters, is due chiefly to the prostatic secretion. In 2009, a research paper on spermidine found that administration of spermine, a polyamine, whose concentration declines during aging, extends lifespan in yeast, flies, worms, and in human immune cells. Spermidine prevents early oxidative stress and necrotic cell death, and increases the expression of autophagy genes by inhibiting histone acetyltransferase action on histone H3. In a study in 2017 on spermidine, it was concluded that spermidine prolongs lifespan and prevents liver fibrosis and hepatocellular carcinoma. Number 4. Zinc. Zinc is a mineral that is found in particular abundance within the semen and prostate. Among the chemical peculiarities of the prostate gland is its rather high content of zinc. The first to observe this and to comment on the possible role of zinc in reproduction was Gabriel Bertrand. More recently, Mawson and Fisher in Canada found that the mean zinc content of the human prostate gland was 68.2 milligrams per 100 grams, which is in considerable excess of zinc content in human liver, muscle, brain, testes, or blood. These investigators state that the zinc present in the human seminal plasma is derived chiefly from the prostatic secretion. Zinc plays many key roles in bodily function. We may not even yet know the full extent of its functionality. However, deficiency in this valuable mineral has been well documented and can be recognized by the appearance of various diseases. Zinc is one of the most important trace elements in the organism, with three major biological roles as catalyst, structural, and regulatory ion. Zinc-binding motifs are found in many proteins encoded by the human genome physiologically, and free zinc is mainly regulated at the single-cell level. Zinc has critical effect in homeostasis, in immune function, in oxidative stress, in apoptosis, and in aging. And significant disorders of great public health interest are associated with zinc deficiency. In many chronic diseases, including atherosclerosis, several malignancies, neurological disorders, autoimmune diseases, aging, age-related degenerative diseases, and Wilson's disease, the concurrent zinc deficiency may complicate the clinical features, affect adversely immunological status, and increase oxidative stress, and leads to the generation of inflammatory cytokines. In these diseases, oxidative stress and chronic inflammation may play important causative roles. It is therefore important that status of zinc is assessed in any case and zinc deficiency is corrected, since the unique properties of zinc may have significant therapeutic benefits in these diseases. All of the constituents mentioned, although serving their own particular functions, are all working together towards a greater aim for the body, that is, the overall maintenance, preservation, and regeneration of the organism. If we keep these valuable elements stored within the body, then it is reasonable to assume that our body should function at a more optimal level than if we were to regularly expel such precious resources. It is also reasonable to assume we can experience a longer and even healthier existence. Conversely, a continued and excessive loss of semen could result in the development of chemical deficiencies in the body that may induce oxidative stress and accelerate the overall aging process, among many other destructive processes. This is not an empirical fact, yet research, anecdotal evidence, and personal observation lead me to believe this as true. The human body is a work of art. It is Mother Nature's magnum opus, a masterpiece of design, with a seemingly infinite depth of intricacy to allow itself to function and navigate effectively on the physical plane of existence. Nothing in the human body was created out of randomness, but rather every detail of the body serves its own very particular purpose. Written in 1867. Look at his form as he stands upright before you. How admirably it is arranged in all its parts. The body is erect, yet the framework is so connected by joints and elastic tissues as to enable him to bend with ease and grace in whatever direction he may choose. His head placed upon his shoulders as a cupola upon the structure is so nicely adjusted as to be capable of being turned in almost every conceivable direction. The arms and hands are attached to the body by the best means and in the best position to serve in ministering to his necessities and his pleasures. The legs and feet are so adroitly arranged as to balance the whole body in the most accurate manner, either in standing or walking, and admit of the greatest ease and freedom of motion and speed of locomotion. This genial creation is the mark of genial design. A genial designer that possesses capabilities that far exceed our own human level of comprehension, or even level of existence. We humans may not have the capacity to truly understand the depths of such a design, yet we have the capacity to recognize its intelligence, or rather, the existence of such intelligence. Yet, wonderful and beautiful as are all these varied portions of man's body, the great masterpiece of workmanship is the human brain. With its hundreds of little counterparts in the nervous system, the brain with its continuation, the spinal cord, is the great center, while the nerves are but so many minute telegraphic mediums of communication, penetrating the most distant and intricate portions of the human body. The brain is the manufactory of thought, the home of the mind, and the medium through which we receive impressions of the material world. It is the mind that is the true instrument of manifestation as it explores the abstract realms of the immaterial world and extracts these concepts into physical being. It is able to manifest and materialize anything from the dream world into physical reality. Within this masterpiece of work and from the very source of the mind, nervous system, blood and organs, we carry the prized ingredient capable of recreating our very own being, the semen. Even at the level of evolution humanity has currently reached, humans are unable to recreate a fully fledged human being without this invaluable ingredient. The sperm substance is of a technology, for lack of a better word, far exceeding our own human knowledge of creation. It is the epitome of the universe, containing the properties of creation itself. The semen is absolutely sacred and indispensable to our very existence. It is the vessel that brought us to the physical plane. It is our very essence embodied into physical form. One cannot state universally how best to spend our limited time on this physical plane. However, regardless of the endeavor one chooses to undertake, Energy and vitality will be essential for the achievement of their objectives. Higher levels of vitality in a majority of cases will equate to higher levels of progress and success. In order to achieve anything of note, one must pay particular attention to their limited energy supply and not burn their energy up needlessly. This is the ultimate purpose of semen retention, the avoidance of unnecessary semen loss. Reproductive activity drains energy, induces old age, shortens life. This is a well-established concept in the field of biology applied to almost all animals studied and is known as the disposable summer theory of aging. Noire devotes many pages to show that continence prolongs life and incontinence hastens old age. So the canary, according to her view, if permitted to raise offspring yearly, lives not more than 8 or 10 years, while the celibate bird has survived 22 years. A man's semen is certainly not a substance to be disregarded and expended for momentary pleasure. Every emission of this substance is a sacrifice of our own substance for the sake of creating a new being. This new being is the so-called compensation we receive for offering up a piece of our own life force. The laws of nature are immutable. Breaking these laws will inevitably come at a cost to our body, to our vitality, to our life. It is perhaps unbeknown to many, however, the adherents of these laws of nature, in particular that of sexual expression, will ultimately manifest themselves physically and be recognized as visual characteristics in the body and the face. People will, in a deep unconscious sense, recognize the quality of thoughts you think. Written over 100 years ago. Your character is plainly written in your face. Beautiful thoughts light up the features. What you think has a whole lot to do with how you look. Your appearance has a great deal to do with your attractive power. The physical body is an external expression of the soul. You will find the person with well-developed magnetic power, with a good face and a good physical body. Your thoughts and your motives mold your physical appearance. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The man who lives a pure life will radiate the vibrations of purity, and his thoughts will reach those with whom he comes in contact. You can tell a person of pure motives and high ideals by looking at his or her face, better than you can by listening to their words. Your disposition is written plainly on your countenance. It is not always the handsome person who is the most attractive. A person may have plain features, but by thinking beautiful thoughts, he may become very good-looking. Be aware. You have been gifted the most valuable piece of machinery in the known universe, a human body, a human mind. It is a manifestation tool capable of fulfilling your wildest dreams. Look after it. Treat it as you would a valuable treasure. Give it rest, clean thoughts, exercise, fresh air, sun, and good food. The good treatment of your body will manifest itself into health, looks, fortune, and destiny. Treat these thoughts as sacred knowledge to be adhered to and respected. On this physical plane, your body is the kingdom of your soul. Treat it as such. Aggression. A commonly spoken about effect of semen retention. Why do so many experience this particular state when holding on to their life force? Your vigor and vitality are increasing. An increase in energy will reach all areas of the psyche. Larger quantities of life force distributed to each faculty of your brain.
Your motivational power will increase dramatically as your enhanced synaptic connections fire more rapidly and function more efficiently to carry out mental to physical conversions. There is a communication between your mind and body that will function more fluidly when the both are in their most optimized and nutritive states. The process of retention makes it easier for thoughts to be materialized physically. Any spark of inspiration will impel you to take physical action. This is why retainers are not lazy. The preservation of energies and increased nourishment of the organism makes it easier for one to convert thought energy into its physical equivalent. The body becomes more responsive to thought impulse and can swiftly carry out any intention originating from the mind. This heightened awareness also applies to the state of anger. Your capabilities for aggression will increase. Perhaps this is why people become more assertive on longer streaks of retention. No longer can their brain merely entertain dissatisfaction without physically acting upon it. We know that many people on retention leave jobs, leave relationships, and make major shifts in their lifestyle during their streak. They are awakening a latent power that resides inside of them, a fireball of energy that is necessary to transfer mental objects into the physical realm. This is the ingredient that impels one to take action, to physically respond to their own dissatisfaction and take the necessary steps to improve their life. Be grateful you have been given this gift of aggression. This is the catalyst of self-transformation. You should understand that the universe is acting through you. It wants to evolve. You are the vessel to help it achieve this aim. As you stop the leaks of sexual energy, your vessel can fill itself with the essence of the universe. The more this life force inside you grows, the stronger the will of the universe will manifest itself into reality. Enough accumulation of this energy and your being becomes an unstoppable force. As Mantak Chia said, semen is the storehouse of masculine energy. The secretion of these fluids is what gives man his manliness, his male characteristics, his physicality, his fighting spirit. Written over 100 years ago, it is easy to see the wonderful effect of these fluids in the youth, and those that have lived continent lives have nothing but benefit to report from experiences. It is the secret of the wonderful transformation of the boy into a man. The powerful muscles, the vigor of nerve and brain, the manly form, the qualities of will, initiative and courage, idealism, the social instinct, sex, love, etc., are all dependent for their normal development on the sex organs. It is a well-known fact that through any cause the functions of the testes are destroyed before puberty. The essential characteristics of manhood take on a different form. They are likely to be completely without them, or only have them in a very minor form. Your aggression is a part of your masculinity. It is the yang energy that complements the yin, the feminine energy, that both exist within all of us. As a man, you predominate the yang, yet allow the yin to keep the state of dynamic equilibrium. Anger is good. Anger, you see, is to people what fuel is to an automobile. Without it, we would not be motivated to rise to any challenge, and life would be no more than mere existence. Anger is an energy that compels us to define what is right and wrong, good and bad, just and unjust. Anger is also like electricity. Electricity is powerful, so powerful in fact, that it can cause devastating destruction if it is mishandled or abused. But if channeled properly and intelligently, it is highly useful to mankind. As long as the energy of aggression is used for productive purpose, you will go far. Through retention, we are also learning the art of self-control. Much like we control our lustful desires, we must also control our aggression from becoming destructive. On retention, we become more assertive, and thus it is easier to physically respond to a threat, even a minor one. What we are learning here is that the control of anger is much like the control of lust. Through retention, we are learning to not act impulsively on thoughts and feelings, and instead harness those energies for a greater purpose: transmutation. We are learning the immense value of self-discipline. Isn't it a coincidence that the habit of retention teaches us the very way in which to control the aggression that retention can manifest within ourselves? We are being given both the symptom and the cure, the gift of aggression and at the same time the ability to control it. This is precisely what makes a retainer such a powerful entity. Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. Renowned Brahmachari, Swami Sivananda, wrote on the topic of anger that anger and muscular energy can also be transmuted into ojas. A man who has a great deal of ojas in his brain can turn out immense mental work. He is very intelligent. He has lustrous eyes and a magnetic aura in his face. He can influence people by speaking a few words. A short speech of his produces a tremendous impression on the minds of the hearers. His speech is thrilling. He has an awe-inspiring personality. When you feel the anger flowing through you, remember, your strength lies in your ability to not react destructively with this emotion, and simply use the aggression to fuel your ambition and carry out your work. That is where its usefulness lies. To control aggression without inflicting injury is the art of peace. Channeling your aggressions to productive work is controlling the fire. A controlled fire serves the controller. It will heat his house, keep his loved ones warm, light the lanterns to his village, and if necessary, threaten total annihilation against his enemies. A wildfire gone out of control is of no use. A wildfire indiscriminately destroys everything in its path. That is why the fire must be harnessed, must be controlled and directed to be of any use. All of us on retention have this intense fire within us. It grows, and we must learn to handle its heat without losing control, the loss of which will equate to destruction. Be wary of this. The successful control of this aggression will pay you large dividends. It will serve as the ultimate tool to your arsenal, a reservoir of energy that you are free to draw from to protect your interests and further your objectives in life. Make efforts to embrace this masculine energy, to control it, and in time you will become a powerful entity, a force to be reckoned with. To get closer to youth, we must move further from death. What does death entail? The ultimate destruction of the organism due to gradual or sudden physical degeneration. Before we consider regeneration, we should perhaps first focus our thoughts on the reduction of degeneration. As the saying goes, a penny saved is a penny earned. It is widely known in biology that a primary cause of accelerated physical degeneration is reproduction.
From encyclopedia.com. Reproduction generally reduces survival. More reproduction shortening lifespan, less reproduction increasing lifespan. This effect is not absolutely universal, but it is one of the better established patterns in the biology of aging. Reproduction is carried out through the physical act of mating. The biological result of this process for the male is the production and secretion of semen from the sex glands and subsequent ejaculation of said sexual fluids. The act of masturbation carries the same biological end result for the male, that being the secretion and ejaculation of semen. From observing the physical mechanisms of mating and masturbation, it could be reasonably concluded that the end biological result of these two activities are essentially the same. Assuming that the costs of reproduction are based on the loss of these fluids, which is evident, it would be reasonable to surmise that the act of reproduction would bear much the same biological effect and consequences on the organism as the practice of masturbation. The esteemed psychiatrist Mercier wrote, "The function of reproduction has by its very nature a disintegrative, deteriorating influence upon the organism in which it occurs. The reproductive act has an effect on the highest regions of the nervous systems, which is of the nature of a stress, and tends to produce disorder. The repeated loss of energy eventuates in a state of energy, apathy, lethargy, and dementia. The tension of energy in the nervous system is reduced to the lowest ebb, and all the manifestations of the existence of this energy are wanting or exhibited in a feeble and perfunctory shape. The condition is one of dementia. There is want of mind, the inability to perform mental operations of even moderate difficulty, the dullness and slowness of feeling. The loss of all higher emotions and of many of the lower ones also characterizes dementia." From this line of thought, we can establish that the first rule to be followed for longer life is that of reduction of lustful thought, sexual activity, and most importantly, the avoidance of ejaculation of the seminal fluids. There is evidence to suggest that the elixir of youth preservation may actually be present within the chemical constituents that make up the semen. The chemical makeup and consistency of the semen is of a very similar makeup to that of the brain and nervous tissues. Both the brain and semen are made up of numerous elements including phosphorus, lecithin, lipids, cholesterol, and a particular substance known as spermidine. It has been suggested that the brain and sex glands are in direct competition for the use of these substances, and that overuse of one gland will cause deficiency in the other. Sexual excess may in fact have a very direct negative influence on the brain and nerves' ability to access these vital constituents. If conserving the sexual fluids within our bodies is to equate to longer lifespan, then we could assume these substances as being very beneficial to longevity. Claims of the powerful effects of these substances on longevity were made over 50 years ago. Recent research has concluded that spermidine indeed delays aging in humans. These such substances are essentially an elixir of life. That we can absorb this elixir of life by means of preservation for free without the need to go and spend hefty sums of money for its acquisition is perhaps a miracle and a deeply significant health secret that we currently all have access to. We are all slowly dying, but at different rates. Reproduction accelerates our rate of degeneration and ultimately leads to earlier death. The key is restraint of sexual activity to activate regeneration via the absorption of the valuable substances produced and secreted by your glands. To furthermore save energy stores in the body by stopping the regular loss of semen, which would require constant replenishment. Is this something you are prepared to sacrifice? It is by no means a requirement, and for some, the enjoyment of sex may make life all the more worth living, even at the cost of their own lifespan. These are all philosophical questions that one must ponder and reach a conclusion to themselves. Our values are all different. But if you desire to hold on to your youth and vigor well into old age, then the avoidance of reproduction is of great importance. What is charisma? Perhaps all of us have felt the presence of a charismatic individual before. Something inherently attractive and convincing in the way they talk, the way they move, and the way they make us feel. Charisma is a somewhat abstract quality that is not easily nor rationally defined. Charismatic people emanate a strong energy that exerts influence and generates a visceral sense of magnetic attraction towards them. It is a highly potent form of attractive energy that is not exclusively connected to the common physical markers of beauty. Hitler, Gandhi, even Donald Trump. Regardless of your feelings towards these individuals, they each wielded the powers of charisma and captivated large portions of the world in a powerful way, exceeding that which went beyond any manifestation of their physical appearance. They harnessed energies that captivated and influenced millions to follow their agenda. The energy that these people carried is a life force energy, a sex energy. The aforementioned figures have all been known for their strong sexual natures, as have many of the world's most influential leaders. There was research conducted that studied the levels of sexual desire in charismatic people and concluded that they do feel higher levels of sexual desire than the average individual. Napoleon Hill said, "Sex energy is the creative energy of all geniuses. There never has been and never will be a great leader, builder, or artist lacking in the driving force of sex." Perhaps this was why so many of the geniuses throughout history conserved this vital energy. Why is it that some people experience higher levels of sexual desire than others? Sexual desire is widely thought of to be positively correlated to testosterone. There is a lack of published research on long-term sexual abstinence and testosterone levels. However, in recent years, numerous users in the retention community have shared their blood test results before and after going on long-term semen retention. These results have indicated significantly higher levels of testosterone in the blood after long streaks, much more so than prior to commencing retention. It appears that semen retention could significantly boost testosterone levels. Testosterone levels are positively correlated with sexual desire and mating success. Increased sexual desire has been correlated to increased charisma. It has also been said that high T is also considered to be a marker of genetic quality. Conversely, scientists have found in mice that are on a caloric restrictive diet that they experience both lower levels of testosterone and lower levels of attraction from the opposite sex. Although this is not definitive evidence of testosterone being responsible for attractiveness, it does perhaps suggest further evidence of this correlation. It stands to reason that semen retention could enhance one's charisma via the increase of testosterone levels attributed to long streaks. There is nothing concrete or definitive here, yet we could reasonably assume, along with the countless personal testimonials on retention forums, that there is a very strong connection between sexual abstinence and increased charisma. In my own experience too, it seems that every long streak was accompanied by an increase in my receptivity, influence, and ultimately level of charisma. As Osho said, "When energy goes upward, you will be more sexually attractive to others. Because life energy going upward creates a magnetic force. You will become more sexually attractive to others, so you will have to be aware of this. Now you will attract persons unknowingly, and the attraction will not only be physical, the attraction will be etheric." On semen retention, people will feel your presence. People will approach you more. Animals will approach you more. Babies smile at you. Energetic magnetism occurs beyond any scope of reason or rationality. Barring rivalry, many interactions become of a more positive nature. You may be approached more for assistance, advice, or even just directions. People's unconscious desire to connect with you will increase by merit of your sexual energy conservation. You will attract higher vibrational beings and situations into your life. Something about you becomes undeniably magnetic. They see it in your face, in your eyes, hear it in your voice. Without you even realizing, your words will carry more weight. Rivals to you will find it very hard to deal with. Your opinions will naturally exert stronger influence on those around you. This physical realm is controlled by the living and the life force. Those with more of this power exert more power. Those with less of this force wield less power. Those that can carry this practice on longer terms will gradually emerge as a supremely powerful force to be reckoned with. They will enter the ranks of the great sages, artists, and leaders of the world. With such an amassed power, one will be able to manifest whatever it is they want in this world. Humans respect energy. Abundant sex energy manifests itself in all that is beautiful. From the songs of a bird, to the feathers of a peacock, to the beauty of an artist's masterpiece. They are all manifestations of this life force energy, this sex energy. Conserve this sacred energy and your life force increases. The very essence of your existence will strengthen, and its power becomes undeniable to all. Mind, a beautiful servant, a dangerous master. You must control your mind. If you cannot gain control of your mind, you will be unable to succeed on semen retention. Very few people on this earth are on this journey. Out of that small number, an even smaller number are successfully retaining over the long term. To retain over 6 to 12 months is a rarity. Your level of self-discipline is a direct reflection of your level of power. Written in the 1930s, man is the first product of evolution to be capable of controlling evolutionary destiny. Endowed as he is with reasoning powers, he must independently decide upon his own behavior, without the compelling guidance by instinct. Supplied with mind, he is expected to cooperate consciously with nature in her further evolutionary program. Unfortunately, humanity has arrogantly failed to make a serious effort to promote its own further progress. Instead of using the power of the mind to understand the responsibilities which freedom from blind obedience to instinct entails, mankind has refused to listen whenever it was reminded of the requirements of the evolutionary law. It was so much easier to lend an ear to the promptings of desire, which was an unknown element up to the human stage. It must have been very soon after the acquisition of mental self-consciousness and his becoming aware of stirrings of primitive impulses that man began to use the mind to stimulate the desires of the body. In this way, he has indulged the almost negligible sexual impulse which he inherited from the animal kingdom, until it has become a desire so strong that he has difficulty to control it. Overstimulated by this unnaturally strong desire of his own making, man has looked for arbitrary ways in which to gratify it. Although reducing actual reproduction, he has discovered ways of unreproductive sexual action. But every such act, whatever form it takes, is a misuse of sex, and uses up some of the life force that should be utilized for the support and the development of higher faculties. The record of our race progress clearly shows how our upward movement has been checked by that misuse. If your emotions override your actions, you will not be able to retain long term. Think of the last time you were retaining and decided to relapse and end your streak for the sake of a few seconds. This is where the battle is held. You couldn't handle the pressure and you gave in to your emotions. Emotions are dangerous. Respect their power and understand there is a constant war going on between your emotions and your rational mind. Every time you submit to your desires and do something that you shouldn't do, you are changing the course of your destiny towards the path of degeneration. Every time you do what is right, even if you don't feel like it, your mind is winning. Strength is winning and moving you onto a path of a prosperous future, your intended destiny. Visualize these two entities fighting a holy war for control of your mind. Ultimately, you get to decide which side will win. Be aware that your mind wants what's best for you, but desire is willing to sacrifice everything for its own fulfillment, for its own self-gratification. Your mind is on your team. Sexual desire is an enemy. It is indeed helpful to see this desire as an external entity, a force that exists in this realm which can latch onto you and suck out your energy like a vampire, if you let it. This entity is very powerful and totally dominates the masses of people on this earth. To succeed on retention, you must not submit to this powerful force by not letting sexual desire feed on you. You are ridding it from this world. Emotions are at times very helpful tools to have in our arsenal, yet they make terrible leaders. The leaders and successful people of this world have all had to fight this same war, and continue to do so with critical thinking at the forefront of their decision-making process. A slave cannot become a commander until after he becomes free. A man who is subject to his own animal desires cannot command the animal nature of others. A muscle becomes developed by its use, an instinct or habit is strengthened in proportion as it is permitted to rule. A mental power becomes developed by practice, and the principle of will grows strong by exercise, and this is the use of temptations. To have strong passions and to overcome them makes man a hero. The sexual instinct is the strongest of all, and he who vanquishes it becomes a god. The key to victory is simple. Handle the pressure. Embrace the sadness. Wholeheartedly accept all of the negativity you are feeling and let it flow through you, knowing that eventually it will pass. Don't make any effort to relieve it. Rather, absorb it. Sit with it. Do not give it any influence over your physical actions. Why are we so averse to sadness and suffering? Why do we not embrace hardship and make so much effort to avoid it at all costs? There is much wisdom in sadness. Being sad gives us such a deep sense of appreciation for the good times, the good people, the good things in our life. Sadness is an essential component to living. Those that reject sadness and overreact because they're sad, those that can't handle this emotion, must learn to carry it when it comes. If you wish to become strong and as a byproduct successful, then don't run away from sadness and hardship. Learn how to endure it, and stick to your plan regardless of whatever emotion you feel that day. This message isn't for everyone, but if you want to be in the top minority of successful people, then this is what you need to do. Those who succeed are succeeding in handling pressure. Even with the intense desire for pleasure, they choose to look at the bigger picture. They understand the sacrifice they are making is for a much greater reward. Even in their moments of weakness, they don't act on this weakness. There is not even a chance of relapse because it is not something they can negotiate. Simply, they have resolved not to relapse, so they won't relapse. It is okay to relapse, but be very clear on what you are not. You are not a successful retainer. You have failed. All the others who have continued past your date are mentally stronger than you are. By relapsing, you have essentially drawn a line in the sand to measure your current level of power, and that line falls below every single retainer that retained for longer than you. This is important. Don't give yourself a free pass. Nobody who achieved retention long-term, nobody who achieved greatness, gave themselves a free pass. The secret to achieving this is, there is no secret. You just do it. No excuses. Nothing. Pure thoughts create a pure mind. A pure mind creates pure habit. Pure habit creates a pure body. A pure mind in a pure body. That is health. The attainment of true beauty and personal magnetism will require the cultivation of pure thought. Your thoughts are not as well hidden as you may think. Over time, impure thoughts can manifest themselves physically into the body and become etched into the character of the individual. This can have a negative effect on your interactions with others and the world around you. If people realize that the consequences of impure thought are so detrimental to their very being, they'd never have an impure thought again. According to Dharmantari, the sexual energy is transmuted into ojas, or spiritual energy, by pure thoughts. It is called sexual sublimination in Western psychology. Sublimination is not a matter of suppression or repression, but a positive dynamic conversion process. It is the process of controlling the sex energy, conserving it, then diverting it into the higher channels, and finally converting it into spiritual energy, or Ojas Shakti. Ojas is the cause of attractive personality. If you see any person who is outstanding in his works, whose speech is impressive and thrilling, has lustrous eyes, and a magnetic aura on his face, and awe-inspiring, charismatic personality, be sure that he has stored up ojas in his brain. This stored up energy can be utilized for divine contemplation and spiritual pursuits. The successful implementation of semen retention over the long term is no easy feat. It is an extremely rare achievement to retain the seed for years at a time. The elimination of impure thought is the next level up. It is existence at a higher frequency. It is the retention within retention that will take you to the loftiest heights of human experience. Perhaps for many practicing semen retention, the commonly held belief is that if fluids are not lost through ejaculation, then no energy is lost. But even from the spark of a lustful thought, the prostate can activate and start moving fluids up the vas deferens to the prostate in preparation for ejaculation. At this point, it is already too late. It is said that semen can be lost and excreted via the urine from merely having a lustful thought. Although anecdotal, retainers have claimed to have cloudy urine or noticeable semen excretion via the urine after practicing edging or non-ejaculatory sex. From 1874, a published doctor's account of his patient. A young man who had visited the East Indies twice as supercargo of a vessel sailing out of Boston consulted me 2 years ago in regards to a sexual nervousness, as he called it. He told me that while he had kept a native mistress in the East Indies, he had never indulged himself excessively, and yet he felt that he was losing his virility. He had become engaged to a beautiful woman, but feared he should prove unequal to marital duties. The symptoms, as I thought, indicated a masturbator's exhaustion, and I told him it was best to speak freely, concealing nothing, that I was not in the habit of compromising anyone who consulted me confidentially, etc. He said, "I never practiced masturbation more than 5 times in my life, when my mother began to suspect something and talked to me in such a way that I never was guilty again. I then proposed to examine his urine, and to that end brought in 5 long test tubes, directing him to fill them in my presence. I saw nothing unusual with my naked eye, and after a time proceeded to scrutinize the sediment with a microscope. Discovering nothing of interest, I finally asked him if there was anything in his sexual life which he had concealed from me. Nothing that I know of, said he, except that I indulge in thoughts about women. During my long voyages, I have given myself a good deal to such things. I have taken with me a score of French novels in which sex has been treated in a very fascinating way. Certain passages in these books I have read over and over, and then I have indulged for hours and days in thoughts to which such readings naturally give rise. Have you observed, after several hours' abandonment to such fancies, that your nervous system was greatly exhausted? I have constantly observed it. I have noticed that intercourse with my Indian girl did not exhaust me half so much. But, sir, it is impossible to control my thoughts. Such fancies will haunt me, and it is impossible to get rid of them. I then said, "Come to see me again in 2 days, and I will prepare in writing the course you are to pursue." I advised him to eat very plain, unstimulating food, dispensing with supper altogether, and to work himself to fatigue every day. But I urged, above all other duties, the importance of keeping the mind free from impure thoughts. Upon his return from another voyage a few months ago, he called to see me. His face told of improved health, and as soon as we were alone, he began about my great victory. Cleaned out, sir. I wouldn't go back again to wallow in the mire for my life, and now I'm going to marry, and I shall marry the woman's soul. If I had married 2 years ago, it would have been her body. What an animal I was! I have the impression that the service I rendered that gentleman was really more precious to him than to have saved his body from the jaws of death." End quote. As we can see from such experiences as above, it is not only for purity's sake that we must think pure thoughts, it is for the purpose of conserving our energy and maintaining a healthy physical existence. Further writings on the topic from the 1880s. It is a widespread and deadly error that only outward acts are harmful, that only physical transgression of the laws of chastity will produce disease. We have seen all the effects of beastly abuse result from mental sin alone. I have traced serious affections and very great suffering to this cause. The cases may occur at any period of life. We meet with them frequently among such as are usually called or think themselves continent young men. There are large classes of persons who seem to think that they may, without moral guilt, excite their own feelings or those of others by loose or libidinous conversation in society, provided such impure thoughts or acts are not followed by masturbation or fornication. I have almost daily to tell such persons that physically and in a sanitary point of view, they are ruining their constitutions. They are young men who almost pass their lives in making carnal acquaintances in the street, but just stop short of seducing girls. There are others who haunt the lower classes of places of public amusement for the purpose of sexual excitement, and live, in fact, a thoroughly immoral life in all respects, except actually going home with prostitutes. When these men come to me, laboring under the various forms of impotence, they are surprised at my suggesting to them the possibility of the impairment of their powers being dependent upon these previous vicious habits. Perhaps it's best to think of semen retention as not the end goal, but as a vital component to the foundation of a pure life. Purity is not just a mental concept. It manifests itself into the fibers of your very existence, influencing all who make your acquaintance. Is recovery possible? Can you return your organism back to its optimal state? Back to the state of an organism that had never released in the first place? Can we reverse years of semen loss? Perhaps the following proverb is appropriate here. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Provided you are not on your deathbed, moments away from expiration, then recovery should be very possible. The rate and level of your recovery will be dependent on the natural constitution of your body and the level of action you're willing to take to cultivate healthy habits. The loss of your vitality is essentially what you are trying to remedy. Just as the depletion of your physical forces occurred gradually over many years, so will your recovery process take years to correct. The good news is, however, you can start to notice the smaller benefits almost immediately upon commencement of retention. Said in 1900, "Let us emphasize at the very start that no drugs, no tonics of any kind can be of the slightest influence towards creating or strengthening sexual power. The remedy must come from within, must accompany the building up of all physical forces. The circulation of the entire body must be awakened and brought up to a normal standard by natural means. Nature. Depend on nature and natural means entirely if you desire a cure. There is no excuse for impotence. One should retain the power of sex all through life, and if the laws of nature have not been grossly violated, this can be done in every instance. If your power in this way have been depleted or destroyed, rejuvenate them again by building up the nervous and physical forces. The vitality in our body, the ojas, it is present in every cell. Like a form of electricity that energizes the structure,
The stimulation of the prostate draws on this vital energy and converts it to its physical manifestation, semen. The creation of this precious fluid starts at the sexual thought impulse and is achieved by drawing energy out of the brain, nervous tissues, and cells of your body and using that energy to produce semen in the testes. This diverts valuable energy away from the organs and tissues. This is perhaps why many doctors of note throughout history attributed excessive masturbation to nervous debilitation and insanity. Consider this. The ingredients to create such an energetic life-giving fluid is none other than your own life essence. We have been built to be able to make this sacrifice of our energy for the sake of the creation of a new human being. But if we are not using it for the purpose of procreation, then ultimately, what are we gaining from this sacrifice? We are paying a huge cost for momentary pleasure by giving up a small portion of our own life. This complete control of sexual energy is acquired not merely by abstention from sex act, but also by control of thoughts and desires, so that not the slightest thought or desire connected with sex or suggesting sex even enters the mind. For this current of energy referred to above is extremely susceptible to thought, and the slightest thoughts connected with sexual desires immediately stir up and direct the energy to the sexual organs. Brahmacharya is therefore a control of the thoughts so complete that not the slightest stirring of our sex instincts is possible at any time. It is only under such conditions that the grosser energies of the body can be sublimated to serve the higher purposes of the soul. And the earlier in life we begin this self-discipline, the easier it is to acquire this control. For recovery on semen retention, you will need the following. Time. Much time. If this habit has been going on for over a decade, then perhaps realize your recovery will take numerous years of concentrated effort. That the possibility of regeneration and recovery is even possible should motivate you regardless of the time required. Even in the first 6 to 12 months of complete retention, you will experience life-changing results, but this is perhaps only the tip of the iceberg. Understand that retention is no quick fix, but a habit that is practiced for long enough will recover your faculties to their optimal state and will fill your organism with untold levels of energy that will permeate through every fiber of your being. Exercise. You will need to move your body and work up a sweat at least twice a day. Muscular exercise adapted to the needs of the individual tends to produce, in every case, a more normal condition. For instance, if one is too fleshy to be in normal health, it will take off flesh. If too thin, it will add flesh. This ability of physical culture to bring about the highest degree of normal health is exemplified with equal emphasis in sexual life. Those who suffer from weakness in this way will find its specially adapted training the only safe means of cure. As the muscles develop, the digestive power increases, the circulation improves, the nerves are strengthened, and the mind refreshed with renewed confidence. This building up of the physical strength affects beneficially every organ of the body. The same can be said of its effects of those suffering sexually from an excess of animal life. This is a disease just the same as the other extreme, and this surplus energy can be absorbed and used to advantage if expended in muscular exercise. Not only does the muscle and nerve power increase and the general health vastly improve when this method is followed, but the unusual and unnatural strength of this abnormal desire disappears, creating in reality a greater, safer strength and removing the feverish of an overwrought nervousness. The effect of cultivating sexual vigor by building up the muscular and vital powers of the body cannot be fittingly described. If all powers in this way are lost, or if they seem to have so diminished in vigor that the intense desire of vigorous pulsating youth has disappeared, they can be entirely regained by natural processes assisted by the muscular movements described here, of rich blood in copious quantities to every part of the body which results from these exercises is one of the salient features necessary in order to regain the sexual powers. Under the influence of proper exercise for every muscle of the body, the heart, with quick and strong, greatly accelerated pulsations, forces the blood with increased power through the arteries and capillaries, drives the impurities out through the great purifying organs, the skin and kidneys, and causes every organ of the body to be rejuvenated and strengthened. Sleep. To reap the restorative benefits of sleep, follow the simple rule: sun up, be up; sun down, lay down. The closer you adhere to this schedule, the closer your restorative benefits will be. This is how your circadian rhythm is programmed, and thus how your body can fully make use of sleep. If you sleep early for consecutive days, your body should develop a natural waking up time, roughly 6 to 8 hours after sleep. Try to allow yourself to awake naturally and set an alarm at the latest possible time in case for whatever reason your body misses this time. For the most part, your body will begin to set its own alarm clock, and this is the most natural time to rise. If you find you are awakening in the middle of the night, you are perhaps not expending enough physical and/or mental energy before sleep and should engage in some activity that will work the body and mind to fatigue. 2 good recommendations for both mental and physical exercise are outdoor running and chess. Foods. In today's times, there are countless perspectives on the most appropriate diet for the body. Each come with their pros and cons. In terms of regeneration, the best foods are of high, unprocessed quality, rich in minerals and easily digestible. Rice, meats, vegetables, soups. Depending on one's body weight, the calorie intake may be adjusted accordingly, underweight needing more calories and overweight needing less. Vices. The renunciation of all unhealthy vices such as cigarettes, drugs, and alcohol. Following a lifestyle of good foods, outdoor exercise, and sleep will greatly aid you on your journey of semen retention. All such practices will contribute towards revitalizing energy stores, organ regeneration, blood quality improvement, and an overall improvement of the structures of your organism and subsequently its appearance. Keep these realizations in mind, and your long-term goals for recovery will gradually materialize. With consistency applied, you will inevitably experience a restorative transformation back to your optimal level of physical health. Through the hostile landscapes, in the dead of the night, a lantern in one hand, guided by light, a staff in the other, he wanders the heights, in solitude seeking the secrets of life. To the retainer, you are leaving this world you knew for so long. The ropes of desire that bound you for so many years are now being cut away. Your vital essence is being restored. The essence that brought you to this realm, that has been absent for so many years, is now beginning to grow and flourish again from within you. This power will allow you to carry out your life's work. Day by day, as you retain, it builds. As you receive nourishment from conserved energies, subtle shifts begin to take place from within you. You may begin to see things differently, see people differently, and feel things you've never felt. You may grow apart from the people in your life and feel the pull to retreat to a place of solitude. For a time, you may even become the hermit. I'll tell you what hermits realize. If you go off into a far, far forest and get very quiet, you'll come to understand that you're connected with everything. That every little insect that comes buzzing around you is a messenger. And that little insect is connected with human beings everywhere else. You can hear. You become incredibly sensitive in your ears and you hear far-off sounds. And just by the very nature of isolating yourself and becoming quiet, you become intensely aware of your relationship with everything else that's going on. Starting semen retention is embarking on a journey. A physical journey will have you arrive at a physical location. The process of self-transformation will have you arrive into a new state of existence. You are being offered a transaction at no monetary cost. You trade in your worldly pleasures, and in return are transformed to a higher state of being, a state closer to that of the gods. You become a powerful conduit, channeling the energy of the universe into physical forms. My brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. I have not penetrated into the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists. For a retainer, the very essence of the universal life force, God itself, will flow through your body and out your fingertips. It will be seen by others through your face, your aura, your words, your actions, and through your creations. Others recognize this presence through all that was created under your hand. You are given the power to create masterpieces in any undertaking of your inclination. The godly touch of genius that coursed through the veins of Da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Isaac Newton, all celibates, is accessible to anyone with the ability to accumulate it. This is no easy feat, however. This act of conserving the vital forces requires the utmost discipline. To not be overcome by lustful desire is something very rarely seen in mankind. The practice of austerity. Commence semen retention and you will delve into the depths of solitude. You will not be able to escape down the rabbit hole of fantasizing and self-stimulation for temporary distraction and relief. You will come face to face with your own self. Deep, quiet solitude. It is an acquired taste that can be unbearable at first, but with the accompaniment of time becomes the most exquisite flavor of all that life has to offer. It becomes your medicine that will nurse you back to spiritual health. Others further along the line may be well acquainted with solitude and relish it. Semen retention will heighten the experience of solitude as you slowly unplug yourself from the draining pipes of your life force that have kept you distracted and idle for so long. A journey into solitude and spiritual enlightenment is symbolized as the hermit walking through the night. The retainer will inevitably be made to walk the path of the hermit. Your essence acts as the lighting beacon the hermit holds, guiding you through the dark, unable to see the destination, yet luminous enough to show you the next step to take. Solitude for many is a dark place. This is a journey of countless miles. You will walk a seemingly endless path up into the thick forests of the mountains, at times enduring snowstorms, gale force winds, and everything that Mother Nature has to throw at you. The hermit will remain on the path, undeterred from whatever comes his way, because the hermit knows this is merely a test. Starting this journey, you boldly made the claim to nature of your intent to retain within you the essence of life, and nature is now testing that resolve of yours. It is one thing to claim renunciation. It is another thing to carry it out. But as you continue along the solitary path, you soon notice that things along the way begin to help you on your journey. Things you initially saw as obstacles become your supporters. The environment around you is responding favorably to your pure thoughts, and as time progresses, the journey gets easier. The objects in your periphery appear to transform and change shape on this journey. The characters, the landscape, everything. But actually, it is not the external that is changing, it is you. The subtler energies of the universe are becoming known to you, many for the first time. You are beginning to see deeper layers into the very core of existence. What it is to be alive. The energies of people become visible to you, and your sensitivity so heightened that you can sense the intent of anyone that you cross paths with. We all will be leaving this world on our own. Don't wait until you have to leave to get comfortable with solitude. Solitude is a teacher that will take you down to the deepest depths of life. Do not avoid it. Pursue this loneliness, and once you get a hold of it, embrace it. Learn it. Best to see solitude as tranquil serenity. As you awaken, you channel God's wisdom. You learn much about the things that cannot be expressed with language. All the while, on your journey, you may not see the end line of where it is you are traveling to. But a time will come when that destination makes itself known to you. Until that time comes, you will continue along the path, a solitary traveler, a hermit, with the knowledge that the vital forces will manifest themselves without your conscious action. All you need to do is create the conditions for its manifestation. I find it wholesome to be alone the greater part of the time. To be in company, even with the best, is soon wearisome and dissipating. I love to be alone. I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude. Silence is the universal refuge, the sequel to all dull discourses and all foolish acts, a balm to our every chagrin, as well after satiety as after disappointment, that background which the painter may not daub, be he master or bungler, and which, however awkward a figure we may have made in the foreground, remains ever our inviolable asylum, where no indignity can assail, no personality can disturb us. Be alone in your own company. Though you are alone, you shall not be lonely. Spend time with yourself, and the answers that you seek will come. The seeds of originality and genius reside inside of you, but you need to still the mind long enough until the waters settle and the ideas can spring forth. Solitude is the mother of invention, of creation. Coupled with the preservation of your life forces, your body and mental faculties strengthen immensely as you probe deeply the questions of what you are here for and begin to come to an ultimate realization of your life's purpose and understanding of yourself. It is the catalyst that will inspire your most important actions on this earth. Allow yourself the time whilst retaining to really think about what it is you want, or more so, how it is you can serve. This is the ultimate purpose of the hermit's journey. Swami Sivananda once said, "Celibacy is to a yogi what electricity is to an electric bulb. Without celibacy, no spiritual progress is possible. It is a potent weapon and shield to wage war against the internal evil forces of lust, anger, and greed. It serves as a gateway for the bliss beyond and opens the door of liberation. It contributes perennial joy and uninterrupted bliss. It is the only key to open the sushumna, the chief among astral tubes in the human body running inside the spinal column, and awaken the kundalini, the primordial cosmic energy located in the individual. There cannot be any language without words. You cannot draw a picture without a canvas or a wall. You cannot write anything without paper. Even so, you cannot have health and spiritual life without celibacy." Do you often think about your own existence? Why you came here? Where you came from? Why you are existing as you and not existing as somebody else? Does it seem logical that you are in this body but not in that body? All the billions of bodies existing here, and you're in your one only. You've perhaps even thought before that this is just the luck of the draw, that you have grown into your being by chance, that you had no say in all of this, no hand in your own creation, that this was merely random. But as we observe matter and phenomena in the universe, the trees, the insects, the flowers, everything,
we find the highest levels of intelligence and purposeful intent everywhere. A puppy grows into a dog and gives birth to more dogs, following a sequence of growth that ensures the dog will follow the design of its own biology and not diverge from its intended course. There is no chance of a dog turning into a cat, for it is destined to become a dog. It is written into its cells. It is coded in the biology of every living being. As a particular type of flower will grow into that type of flower following a highly precise and complex pattern of construction, development, and growth. We have mapped this consistently occurring pattern of growth and dubbed it the Fibonacci sequence. It can be found everywhere in nature. The experience of this sequence resonates in our brains as aesthetic beauty. The closer to this sequence, the higher the aesthetic, and the higher pleasure we experience from its appearance. A visual representation of the universal design. Beauty represents the true intended pattern of growth, the true nature of the universal code. In essence, beauty represents truth. It is nature's intended expression. That's why we strive towards it. We are all seeking beauty, all seeking truth. The closer we live in tune with nature, the closer to this ideal we become. Weston Price discovered this almost a century before with his studies of jaw malocclusion rates and facial development patterns in urban dwellers versus tribespeople, and concluded that the natural diets and natural lifestyles facilitated natural growth and thus more aesthetic development of the facial features. The only way in which we can get closer to the attainment of this beauty is through adherence to nature and all of nature's laws. Animals know this instinctively. All lifestyle habits that oppose natural law will carry the costs of deformity, degeneration, and ultimately unattractiveness. This is why semen retention brings us closer to the truth, to the source of life and its infinite power. As we learn to conserve our sexual power and only use these vital resources when absolutely necessary for the purposes of procreation. As seen with animals in the wild, the habit of constantly losing our sexual fluids via stimulation is not in line with nature. Those on this journey seeking to align themselves to natural living will experience pain and struggle. The road to purify oneself from impurity is pain. Quitting alcohol is pain. Quitting drugs is pain. Overcoming lust is pain. The most negative aspect of semen retention is also the most powerful. Without the option of release, you cannot escape your life. You must face it. Ever since you started releasing your energies, you have been able to temporarily escape the pain of your existence and avoid facing your difficult life. You have had an escape door from rejection, from dissatisfaction, from loneliness, from sadness, and from every other negative energy that infiltrates your being. The escape, however, was temporary, and the use of this escape carried a greater cost. Once you lock this door, you are forced to come face to face with the pain of your own existence, your own demonic entities that inhabit your soul. This is where your battle begins, learning to acclimatize to these dark energies. Do not avoid a hard life. A hard life can be a good life. Be careful of associating an easy life with a good life. A good life is oftentimes hard. An easy life is oftentimes unfulfilling. Take the hard path. It is there that you will seek fulfillment. You must learn to overcome hard things, experience life's range of emotions, go through bouts of sadness and hardship. Hardships mean nothing. It is your response to hardship that means everything. Best to channel your energies into a craft or an activity. If you don't know what to do, then start running. Go outside, run to the shop, run around the park. Tomorrow, double it. Continue running every day until you can complete a marathon.
then enter one. Don't get caught up in deciding what you want to do. If you can't decide on anything, then just decide on anything. You can change the activity later, but take action now. If the day is not over, take physical action today. You're a physical being. Do not deny this part of your existence. Reading without movement, study without action is not useful. If it's already night time, schedule the action tomorrow. Do not meditate on it. Engage in the action with haste. The exertion of your non-sexual faculties will be paramount during sexual conservation. The brain and the testes are energetically in competition with each other, a fight for resources. With the conservation of your sexual forces, you allow for surplus energy of all other aspects of your body. This energy must be used up. It is an admitted fact that as the mental faculties become more and more developed, the sex appetite grows constantly less. It is strongest among those of the lowest intelligence. As the lower passions become subdued, the forces formerly wasted are transformed into power, and not until then does man really begin to live. Life takes on a different aspect than ever before. Your thoughts and aims are of a different nature. No longer content to live for yourself alone or to follow selfish aims, you become more altruistic and are ever ready to extend a helping hand to your fellow creatures. You become en rapport with your Creator and seek to live in harmony with His laws. In fact, regeneration means the awakening of the higher consciousness. You must learn something and learn it well. You have been asked to play with the cards you've been dealt. Do not wish for better cards, but learn to play better. Everyone has good cards and bad cards. You just can't see others' bad cards as easily as you can see your own. Don't let that stop you from feeling compassion for others. Everyone is in a constant battle for their lives. Everyone plays a character on stage, but behind the scenes, behind their masks, they live a different life which you know little of. The people around you are oftentimes more sensitive than you think. Your presence is affecting them a lot more than you may know. Do not wish after other people's lives. They are battling demons that you are unaware of. Be thankful that at least your own demons are the ones that you're familiar with. To know your own enemy allows you to prepare effectively. Although you can't change the cards, you can learn to use them to your advantage, to play to your strengths. This is where your power lies. You are capable of so much work and so much change that is needed in this world. You are needed here now. Entities come into existence on this plane because there is a necessity for their existence. There is nothing random to your existence. You are supposed to be here, reading this now. There is a reason these words found you. This information was meant for you. It is because you are a seeker and you're seeking truth. The entire history of everything that has happened has resulted in you being placed right here, right now. This is exactly where you need to be. Your current position is as purposeful as the entire existence of this world and everything in it. Do not run from hardship. Do not run from grief. Do not run from death. Death is necessary, as without it there could be no life. Without up, there is no down. Without dark, there is no light. Everything in existence is made up of its own opposite, the law of polarity, a central tenet of Hermetic philosophy. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. There was a time when you didn't exist. Now a time when you do exist. Then a time when you won't exist. And then a time when you will exist. This flux of the universe is merely a vibration, a wave of fluctuations passing in and out, up and down, back and forth, each polarity allowing for the existence of its natural opposite. Let these waves wash over you without pushing or pulling, without holding on, just letting go. Everything is unfolding in every way exactly how it is meant to. Regard yourself as a cloud in the flesh, because you see, clouds never make mistakes. Did you ever see a cloud that was misshapen? Did you ever see a badly designed wave? No, they always do the right thing. But if you will treat yourself for a while as a cloud or a wave, and realize that you can't make a mistake whatever you do. Because even if you do something that appears totally disastrous, it will all come out in the wash somehow or another. Then through this capacity you will develop a kind of confidence, and through confidence you will be able to trust your own intuition. On semen retention, you are opening the door to your traumatic experiences and facing them head on. To face your fears, to face your failures, to face your demons. This is the cure. Retention will give you insights into how to deal with pain, how to live with pain and become stronger. It is not that you should avoid pain. It is that you should become strong enough to be able to endure it, to take pain on in a positive way, to accept your hardships as a challenge to rise to and not be defeated by. It will bring you closer to nature, closer to beauty, closer to the truth of your existence. This attitude affects your visual image. It creates a quality of person that is to be reflected in the face and appearance. Thoughts crystallize into actual things. What we feel in our heart, harbor in our mind, think about, dream about, will in time develop from these tiny seeds into full growth. Hating someone will not develop your love qualities. A revenge seed cannot bring you anything but trouble. If we want to have friends, we must be friendly. If we want to love, we must have love. Whatever you send to another draws out of them the same kind of qualities. There is a law that regulates thought, which works out just as true as any other law. In India, the developed yogis say, "If a man purposely does me wrong, I will return him my ungrudging love. The more evil comes from him, the more good shall go from me." The developed person of the coming day will understand how injurious are discordant thoughts, and will no more think of letting them into his mind than he would of taking some deadly poison. Your present character is the result of the life you have lived. An adept at character reading does not have to inquire of your past history to unmask your real traits. He is able to read at a glance your thoughts and desires. When we see a face that is all tired and sour, you can tell the owner of the face never thought of beauty and joy, but instead lived a selfish and vicious life. When we see a face that shows a pleasant and agreeable disposition, we know that person has lived an unselfish, harmonious life. The storage of your sexual energies will grow inside you. That magic you feel when you meet a charming man, that same magic you experience seeing a beautiful woman, the same electricity inside an inspirational leader of the people, the same magic inside of a musical composition that moves you deeply. They are all the same charge of electricity, all of the same nature. They all come from the same source, the source of life.
The yogis claim that of all the energies that the human body comprises, the highest is that what they call ojas. Now this ojas is stored up in the brain, and the more the ojas is in a man's head, the more powerful he is, the more intellectual, the more spiritually strong will that man be. This is the action of ojas. One man may speak beautiful language and beautiful thoughts, but they do not impress people. Another man speaks neither beautiful language nor beautiful thoughts, yet his words charm.
the yogis say that part of the human energy which is expressed as sex energy in sexual functions, sexual thought, and so on, when checked and controlled, easily becomes changed into ojas. The yogi tries to take up all his sexual energy and convert it into ojas. It is only the chaste man or woman who can make the ojas rise and become stored in the brain, and that is why chastity has always been considered the highest virtue.
Nature's generative power may be employed as regenerative power. The same forces which bring man into life, strength, and vigor will renew and reproduce his life, strength, and vigor, if rightly applied and directed. You can either put your energy into procreation or regeneration. The energy can be used for either, and you have the choice to choose how that energy is used. Procreation, the creation of a new human, is perhaps a very noble cause, but how about meaningless sexual gratification? Does that warrant the loss of your vital energies of regeneration in exchange for short-lasted hits of pleasure? You are holding on to something of great value. The choice is yours.
As a man, you are gifted with a sacred instrument that can harness the vital energies of the universe. It can allow you to reach heights of genius in your area of pursuit. If misused, it will lead you to degeneration and destruction. The force that generates in the human body those elements which, when used in accordance with natural law, serve to perpetuate the race, is the same force which, when recognized, properly understood and rightly used, will regenerate the body, strengthen the mind, build up character, and develop a true and pure manhood and womanhood. Gould and Dubois, 1911. What is vital energy? Vital energy is, so to speak, a qualitative feeling which persists even when the body may be very tired from physical exhaustion. It is something more lasting than the immediate accident of physical exhaustion. It comes more slowly, but persists longer than the momentary states of feeling. It is, as it were, the colour in which the world appears to the individuality, and hence has a far more direct effect on mental states than physical momentary weariness. End quote. The semen we secrete from our bodies via sexual activity is the energy to create life. This is the same energy used to build and regenerate our own bodies. Why do we have the instinctual need to secrete this valuable energy, even at the expense of our own organism's survival? Because propagation of the species, even at the cost of the individual, is Mother Nature's first imperative. In the wild, we don't have endless options of mate selection and sexual stimuli via online pornography and dating apps. The modern man today is bombarded with sexual imagery and opportunity to stimulate his sexual glands. If we look at the animal kingdom, in nearly all cases, animals do not waste their seed for pleasure and use it strictly for procreation. They don't consciously do this either. It's wired into their instincts. Their adherence to nature's laws is inherent in their very beings. The dangers of sexual excess have been long known and talked about through the ages of human history. The previously quoted texts were written well over 100 years ago, and there are texts dating back thousands of years warning humans of the consequences of sexual excess. This is nothing new. Stop leaking your vital energy. Before we can regenerate ourselves, we must fix any leaks within us that are dissipating our energies. Sexual activity and the subsequent sexual secretions are a major source of this energy loss. There is a certain amount of humiliation and weakness which accompanies the sexual act. The sense of pressure in the vas deferens is gone, and consequently there is weaker innervation there. But it is after 8 or more hours that the lassitude and mental discouragement affect the individual, the acute occurrence of what is chronic in continued dissipation and consequent incipient dementia. Regeneration Applied, Guthrie, 1900. We have been given capabilities to momentarily experience one of life's highest physical pleasures, yet in exchange we must pay the highest physical cost. A portion of our life force. Regeneration of your body can occur when you stop this leakage. Over time, your body will begin to accumulate proteins, lipoids,
cholesterol, and minerals that are essential to the nourishment of your brain. Nervous tissues, organs, down to the very cell and mitochondrial functions of your body. This nutritive effect is explored extensively in the writings of R.W. Bernard from over 70 years ago. Restorative function of the brain, blood, nerves, organs, bones, joints, and so on have been attributed to this practice in various texts over history. Such deep health improvements will perhaps improve the more surface benefits which are commonly discussed among retainers, such as increased vitality, confidence, strong eye contact, more energy, motivation, and so on. Regardless of the findings and points of view of these texts, try it for yourself and make your own conclusions. 30 to 60 days of retention should be enough to see if you are experiencing physical and mental improvements. It will take much time to regenerate deeper, so keep your attention ongoing. Retainers note that improvements are generally experienced within the first month. If you wish to experience the regenerative effects of semen retention, try it for yourself. The sexual glands are all the time secreting the semen. This secretion should be utilized for enhancing one's mental, physical, and spiritual energy. He who would learn to utilize it thus will find that he requires very little food to keep his body in a fit condition, and yet he will be as capable as any of undertaking physical labor. Mental exertion will not tire him easily, nor will he show the ordinary signs of old age. Just as a ripe fruit or old leaves fall off naturally, so will such a brahmachari, when his time comes, pass away with all his faculties intact. Mahatma Gandhi. It is a medical and physiological fact that the best blood in the body goes to form the elements of reproduction in both the sexes. In a pure and orderly life, this matter is reabsorbed. It goes back into the circulation, ready to form the finest brain, nerve, and muscular tissues. This vital fluid of man carried back and diffused through his system makes him manly, strong, brave, and heroic. If wasted, it leaves him effeminate, weak, and physically debilitated, and prone to sexual irritation and disordered function. A wretched nervous system, epilepsy, and various other diseases and death. The suspension of the use of the generative organs is attended with a notable increase of bodily and mental and physical vigor. Dr. Nichols. In view of the richness of the semen in lecithin, cholesterol, phosphorus, and other constituents of nervous and brain tissue, it is clear that it is incontinence or loss of these valuable nerve-nourishing substances which, by promoting undernutrition, is responsible for disturbed functioning of the nervous system and brain. Dr. R.W. Bernard. If a man has an emission of semen, he shall bathe his whole body in water and be unclean until the evening. And every garment and every skin on which the semen comes shall be washed with water and be unclean until the evening. If a man lies with a woman and has an emission of semen, both of them shall bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the evening. The Bible, Peter, chapter 2, verse 11. Continence is the foundation of all health. Sacred books of all religions extol its creative power and enjoin it as the cardinal virtue in spiritual life. For example, religious widows and spiritual aspirants vowed to voluntary chastity and poverty keep up generally a youthful appearance even in a ripe old age, and live an unusually long life. Continence makes the body strong, the mind healthy, the eyes sparkling, the cheeks shining, and the face beaming with magnetic aura. Continence increases infinitely the power of retentiveness and remembrance. Try to gain absolute mastery over thy sexual instinct. A. Gould and Franklin L. Du Bois. All waste of spermatic secretions, whether voluntary or involuntary, is a direct waste of the life force. It is almost universally conceded that the choicest element of the blood enters into the composition of the spermatic secretion. If these conclusions are correct, then it follows that a chaste life is essential to man's well-being. Aristotle wrote, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." An often reported benefit of long-term semen retention is that one's luck increases. Highly improbable opportunities open up, and people begin gravitating towards them. Friends and foes from the past come back. Finances improve, and just about every aspect of life shifts into a more positive direction. Many have concluded that the entire universe as they know it transforms once beginning this practice. Preposterous, you may think, as I thought until experienced firsthand. The lines of esoteric knowledge and phenomena are at the core intertwined within the realms of science and observation. If you unravel these threads back far enough, you'll discover that there is method to this madness. Consider this: the entire universe you live inside of, from the insects to the people, to the buildings, to the cities, to the planets. The state of everything and its existence is hinged on one essential factor: the functioning of your brain. Without your brain, there is no universe in which to exist. If your brain isn't there to interpret it, then the universe, as you know it, ceases to be. We envisage the universe as existing externally, a physical location, functioning outside of our own mind within the confines of space and time. But this experience is occurring from within you, internally, within your being, within your brain. The universe may not even be a location at all, but merely a holographic projection of some other form of data that the brain is interpreting. Some may even say that this entire universe is but a large-scale manifestation of our very own brain, our brain cells within the nerve centers representing the stars within the galaxies. Have you ever noticed the remarkable similarities between our own brain structure and the structure of this universe? Both the universe and the brain have been constructed into a complex web or network that spreads out in long filaments and nodes that all connect together. Within both systems, only 30% of their masses are composed of galaxies and neurons. Both neurons and galaxies have a typical scale radius that's only a fraction of the length of the filaments, and the flow of information and energy between nodes is only around 25% of the mass and energy content of each system. Finally, within both systems, 70% of the distribution of mass or energy is composed of components playing an apparently passive role: water in the brain and dark energy in the observable universe. Studies on the similarities between the brain and the universe were conducted recently that drew deep comparisons of the structural, morphological, network properties and the memory capacity of these two systems. The tantalizing degree of similarity that our analysis exposes seems to suggest that the self-organization of both complex systems is likely being shaped by similar principles of network dynamics. Our brain and the universe are deeply interconnected. That is to say, inseparable, as we can't experience one without the other. From this perspective, we may see how the integrity of our own brain could directly influence the quality of this entire universe and our experience of it. The walls and dimensions of our brain making up the lining and spatial structure of the universe,
and the lifespan of our brain representing the lifespan of the cosmos. In this way, any degradation to our brain could be reflected in degradation of the very fabric of reality itself, the end of our brain equating to the end of the universe. Spiritual leaders perhaps intuitively suspected this to be the case. Gandhi attributed the imperfections society was suffering from to have been caused by the imperfections that he had in himself, his own mind. If this holds true that the universe is merely a holographic construction of our brain, then semen becomes not only the driving force of life, but the driving force of the universe itself. If our brain is embodying the universe, then what does the loss of our brain and nerve tissues from semen loss imply? Does the gradual degradation of the fibers of our very own being equate to the deterioration and destruction of this universe? It is said that semen and the brain are very similar in chemical composition. According to the research of R. Bernard, the ejaculation of the sex fluids equates to loss of brain and nerve constituents. Bernard stated, in view of the richness of semen in lecithin, cholesterol, phosphorus, and other constituents of nervous and brain tissue, it is clear that it is incontinence or loss of these valuable nerve-nourishing substances which, by promoting undernutrition, is responsible for disturbed functioning of the nervous system and brain. This may all sound ludicrous, but entertain the thought. Patterns in nature have a tendency to repeat themselves, as above and so below, as in the macro, so in the micro, fractals of reality that continue on into infinity. The vast improvement that semen retention is having on our brain's environment is unfolding out into the universe. The source of this powerful energy is indeed fractal and unfolds infinitely into the fabric of this universe. Not only is it your mind that is transforming, it is everything around you that is transforming too. The space in which you previously existed is no longer there. Not only is it your mind and body that transforms, but essentially the cosmos itself, as it generates universal energy from the conservation of your seed, the most powerful substance in the universe. This is why the universe begins to work in your favor. This energy you're accumulating will force you to evolve. The universe is supporting your growth and pushing your vessel into higher realms of existence. You're manifesting higher and higher towards the ultimate ideal, towards God itself. A symbiotic relationship exists in which the energy you conserve for the universe is returned to you from the universe. You are a vessel that is carrying out the universe's will. And with the preservation of the seed, the universe has more power to carry out your will, more power of existence over non-existence. It may sound overly metaphysical and unscientific to equate the condition of our brain with the condition of the universe, but such communicative relationships between particles and matter have been well explored and established scientifically in the field of quantum physics. The concept of microelements affecting macroelements links into the study of quantum entanglement. This year's 3 Nobel Prize winners received the prestigious award for their work in this field of quantum entanglement and concluded that this universe is not locally real. There is still much to be learned from this field, yet scientists are becoming aware of these invisible threads that connect particles to other particles in unobservable and unknowable ways. The 3 researchers conducted experiments that showed a special state called entanglement when multiple tiny particles are linked, in a sense, so that what happens to one determines what happens to the others, even when they are separated by large distances, the Nobel Committee wrote in a press release. When a scientist determines the state of a particle, all the others that are entangled with it will immediately take on the same state, regardless of where they are, even if they're in a distant galaxy. Working independently, Clauser and Aspect proved this phenomenon can't be explained by the typical laws of physics, and Zellinger demonstrated that entanglement can teleport information between linked particles. The universe will try to help you on semen retention. Doors you never knew existed will start opening. The force of your being will attract people and attention towards you. You are traversing through a labyrinth in this life with many forks and dead ends, but your semen retention journey begins to shift these walls into directions and higher paths that will lead you into higher planes of existence. This goes far beyond the physical realms. There is a reason you chose to come to this plane of existence. There is something that you are seeking, and you have not yet found. Something in this universe. It is also seeking you. You can feel it getting closer. Retention will give you the necessary power to actualize this. 1 year of retention and you'll feel the shift. A light will guide you. Your path will become clearer, and you'll know what to do next. The geniuses of our world knew this. The ancient philosophers knew this. An overwhelming majority remain oblivious to this practice. Through semen retention, you will discover the ultimate path to your destiny. You will discover your very reason for being.